Welcome to the King Leo Show, everybody. I'm your host, King Leo. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to the emergency stream. How's everyone doing? How is my haircut? I'm satisfied with it, but I'd rather it grow back so it looks less fresh. Um, yeah. How's everyone doing? While we wait for everyone to get in here, let me do the plugs. Let me make sure. Hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to make sure the door was closed. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to the King Leo Show. Let me make sure our audio's okay. Well, our audio's fine. Perfect. How's everyone doing tonight? Okay, I'm back. I had to make sure the door was closed. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome. We have to do an emergency stream because, dude, this interview was too good to pass up on today. This Nick Fuentes Piers Morgan interview is one of the funniest things that I've seen all year. It's very, very good professional wrestling. I saved it to put it on the show. Here we have the What Would Piers Morgan Do bracelet because the Master Wizard did a great job today, man. They both did a great job. This is a very entertaining season of American politics, so I thought it'd be worth going over today, especially considering that there's a lot of great stuff, man, that we're going to have to do over the course of the week, including Anna Kasparian on Bill Maher, which if Bill were a little less gay and Anna were a little more darker skinned, they might have hooked up. I'm not going to get into that. You can look that up. And also Andrew Schultz on the New York Times podcast. That should be interesting. Let's get through our plugs. And I want to watch the whole thing today, man, if that's possible. So let's get through it here. As you can see, whoa. Here is our notepad. We don't need that. All right. So here we have the Patreon, $5 a month for $20 a month. I'm going to make a video for it tomorrow. Probably I'm going to start on the Truman Show. We'll see. We have the Ko-fi shop where you could get your What Would Piers Morgan Do bracelet. And we have the Discord, which I'm very active on now. Sheriff Omar Zins, how you doing? Omar credits. Fuentes is a world-class professional speaker. Absolutely. This is some great stuff. We had some great stuff today. I'm very excited to get into it. Absolutely. Haven't seen you here before, my friend. Please like, comment, and subscribe. So I think we should just get right into it, man, because this was great stuff. I guess the only context setting is this is going to be a lot of fun. It's 2 hours. I did not expect them to go 2 hours. That's why we're doing the show. We might go a little over time. These commercials will cut out. The funniest thing, because we're going to skip the commercials, is that Piers Morgan, he really beat them at their own game, man. He's promoting Daily Wire Plus on his platform. So now they have to pay him in order to promote their show, which is pretty funny. So let's get into it. This is great stuff. Let's start with the intro and everything. Everyone here, a little preamble. Everyone here did great. I am now convinced of it has to be one of two. Either Piers Morgan is secretly agreeing with Fuentes because he played the heel too well. This was not Vince McMahon. This was a heel. This was a wrestler taking a dive. Okay, it was very, very funny. Very, very bad performance by Piers on that sense, where he didn't win the debate. But we know that that's not how he thinks. And what a crock of shit is the title. Piers Morgan versus Nick Fuentes, full interview. Great stuff. 1 million views in 9 hours. Great stuff. And secondly, Fuentes did well as well. He was very trolly, so it was very fun to watch too. So this is a great season of professional wrestling. I guess before we get into it, last thing I'd say is I had a thought when I was talking to my producer, and I realized this. If you could go back in time, you know, it's a trite joke at this point, right? Who would you eliminate if you could go back in time? And everyone says, you know, baby German leader, right? But if you eliminate baby Ayatollah Khomeini, Nick Fuentes and Piers Morgan never meet up. This never happens. Because if you think about it, without Patrick Bet-David being born in the early 70s, and then Ayatollah Khomeini coming into power after the 79 revolution, him making his way to the United States, Fuentes born in 98, I think. As Patrick Bet-David is working his way up in the insurance field, gets out of the army, starts his pyramid scheme. Great stuff. Nick Fuentes is at school. He keeps rising. He starts his show. And only this year, with Patrick Bet-David's platform at its highest ascent, and him platforming Fuentes to start, do we get this epic meetup. So we're going to do a very special edition of Piers Watch. Thank you, Patrick Bet-David, for giving us great content, man.
Hang on, no, hang on, no, hang on, no, hang on, no, hang on. No, sorry. I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave it there. Thank you all very much. Say the M word, go on.
Perfect. Let's get into it, dude. The intro's great.
You're a New York Times reader, an NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson. For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say. What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality. For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech or a walking, talking manifestation of where the lines should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the...
Look at Piers. Dude, we think the same. I'm getting to his level, pulling up the Coleman Hughes clip. And if you'll notice, this is how you know this is a big deal. Piers hyped it up all weekend. But you can see that the production quality actually went up. I don't know if that's 60 frames per second, but he looks super smooth. Super duper smooth. This is a good looking debate. Probably the best thing that Piers has done aesthetically.
The Streisand effect. I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
They have opted to not do so when it comes to Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
My concern is that people who are a bit more moderate.
Look at that. We use that clip too. Dude, Piers, I'm getting to Piers level, man.
Are deeply alarmed by Nick Fuentes.
I was very happy to see that, like, Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
That's the war. Can you get the beef prices down? Not crazy things that Nick Fuentes or these other loons say on social media.
Well, it looks like all the screaming about Nick Fuentes on the internet is finally dying down a little bit.
So now we had on this guy, this Fuentes guy, and
we covered this too. Dude, I am getting to Piers level. You cannot deny it. We have our finger on the pulse on the King Leo show, man. We really do.
Never challenged him.
You should have Nick Fuentes on your show and you could ask him questions about that.
The truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all this time talking about Nick Fuentes, but not actually to Nick Fuentes. People who say you shouldn't give him a platform overlook the very obvious fact that he already has a platform of his own.
Look at Piers. I love this ability that he has, this amnesia. He has the Men in Black little light thing. He said just a few months ago he would never interview this guy. And he says, we've talked about him enough. He did 2 weeks of shows on Nick Fuentes and his effects. And now he's finally doing it. I mean, he's squeezing all of this like lemons, man. All of us, the audience, it's great stuff. It's so good. It's the best. He knows how to get maximum value. In case you missed it in the Discord, which is free, guys, join if you get a chance. I think it was Audio Vibes brought in the article that showed that Piers' company, Uncensored, has a private valuation of $100 million. I think that's a little cheap, but he raised money on that valuation. So this is some great stuff. This is a man who knows how to play the field. Schofield's here, how you doing? Forehead's here, how you doing? Piers disclaimer, intro, brilliant. Absolutely. Playing it down the middle, neutral, straight. We're getting a fair match here, fair hearing. And Forehead says, don't ever forget who you are, the United States of America. Got it. All right. I'm not sure what that is, my friend.
Which is often bigger than most of the people complaining. And he uses it to speak unchallenged to his many followers. It's on that basis that I've invited him to appear live and uncensored on my platform. And Nick Fuentes joins me now. Nick Fuentes, welcome.
Look at this, dude. This is a face. Immediate smirk. No bullshit. Immediate smirk. Hilarious. Hilarious. They both know what they're doing. And both of their screens look great. They really put the production value up for this show.
Welcome to Uncensored.
Hi, great to be with you.
I don't know you. I don't think we've ever met. You can correct me if that's wrong. I know about you. I know that increasingly people are talking about you in a more mainstream environment than you may be used to. So for those of you who know nothing about Nick Fuentes, I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real person. I don't know who that person is, but I do want to use this opportunity to get there.
Let's look at that, dude. That is so good. We have here the face, Piers Morgan the heel Piers Morgan giving the face a platform to say who he is. He's not Vince McMahon. We know that. He's the heel, but he's going to be fair. We're going to have, this is the world's proper introduction. Donald Trump's proper introduction, because they met at Mar-a-Lago, Fuentes and him and Ye, a long time ago, but now on TV. This is going to be on TV in the UK. Possibly. I'm not sure, because most of Piers' shows go on to TV. He negotiated that after the fact, after going full YouTube. And that's good for getting the ears of elites. That's one of our theories, that he's trying to show the elites, hey, people are angry down here, man. You got to look out for them. And so I'm just not sure, because they touched on World War II, and that's a sensitive subject over there. But I think at least parts of it will make it onto TV over there.
I've seen you talk, as we prepared for this, in exchanges with people and on your show, saying you fear it's going to be very hostile, it's going to be an ambush, all those kind of things. I don't intend it to be overtly hostile. I don't intend to ambush you. I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record, an examination of what you believe.
Full Hat says, Fuentes made your boy look like a fool. Yes, Full Hat, but that's why. That's why we're watching it. It's great performance art. Piers is the heel. That's what he's supposed to do. You had to go into it knowing that, Full Hat. You knew that Fuentes was going to win the debate. It's professional wrestling. It's great stuff.
Or what you say you believe, and an examination of what your rising popularity says about the state of the conservative movement in America. So those are my goals from this interview. What are your goals? Why are you doing it?
I thought it'd be interesting. And, you know, you've talked a lot about me on your show over the years, and this is the first time you actually extended the invitation. I think it might be the second, actually. I think we talked about doing it during A24 a few years ago, but you've talked a lot about me with the panel, and now you've extended the invitation to talk to me. And I think it'd be interesting for me to maybe clarify some positions and maybe get to know you a little better as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
There is a belief that you have two personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's your show on Rumble, where you often come across as having, you know, a very...
I love this. I love this. Immediately the heel attacks. You are two-faced. You are Jekyll and Hyde. You are not one person. Great stuff. Hold up a mirror. Mirrors imply mental distress. We are casting the face of this season of American politics as a split personality. It's great stuff. Can you believe out the gate it's this good? And it just gets better. Steven Wilson says, watch the whole thing and loved it. I give the W to Nick. I loved this whole thing, man. It was so funny. It was so good. The great stuff from both of these guys. I love it. Full Hat said kayfabe. Full Hat knows, man. He knows.
Unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you.
Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term...
You'll notice Piers does this a lot throughout this interview. He falls back onto other people's words. That way, he doesn't have to take on the full brunt of the attack from the face, because he is relying on other people's ideas of Nick Fuentes. Great stuff. He does one with a journal. We just got to keep watching, man. But I'm glad he used Coleman Hughes, because Coleman Hughes, I've never liked this guy. I don't think he's good. Ta-Nehisi Coates is at least talented. I may not agree with everything, but he's good at this. And this guy made his career off of Ta-Nehisi, and I don't respect him.
Term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Coleman Hughes is a propagandist. He works for the Free Press, which is run by Barry Weiss. So I think you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel.
Completely agree. The only thing I dislike is that, as we know on this channel, Barry Weiss is the most beautiful woman on this planet. I drop it all for Barry, you know? But I like to see this, that people are starting to attack Coleman Hughes. I'm glad we are opening this lane of attack. I'm tired of it only being woke African-American guys like Ta-Nehisi Coates who pegged him right from day one. Coleman Hughes is a terrible, terrible addition to politics. So I'm very glad to see that even Fuentes is getting in on this, man. You guys know that I don't take sides here, but I'm just glad to see that we might have a Coleman Hughes response video to this, and that's going to be great to dissect. How you doing, Robert? How you doing? And Schofield says the $150 million press, the free press, right? Yeah, really free. Where is the free press in the free market? Oh, with a $150 million valuation. Can you believe Piers got a $100 million valuation? That means they're valuing his subscribers at like $20 a subscriber. He's going to launch Uncensored History soon, which is going to be another program. He's the master baiter, the wizard, the sorcerer.
Israel partisan. Free Press is just bought out by CBS for $150 million by Larry Ellison or his son David Ellison. And so I think that's coming from a particular point of view. We can't pretend like that's coming from a vacuum or from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel. That's first. But second, I would say,
I don't know about the Israel stuff, man, but I think the free press is just insufferable on its own. Barry Weiss is a terrible writer. If you've ever read her New York Times archive, I read it in 2017 because I was like, this lady writes like shit. So I'm glad to see people attacking her and her outfit. Before I ask a good question, is he going to be arrested in his own country for this video? We can't get into the reason why. I have the same question, Fuhat, because they brought up an event in World War II, which I think is illegal to debate in England. You could agree or disagree with that, but it's illegal, I think. So I don't know how Piers is going to get this on TV, because he is going to want to get this on TV. He probably wants to communicate this to President Trump, because Piers has Trump's ear, as we know on the show.
Is right about the two personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic because for a long time, I had an audience that was small on these like dissident platforms. I was on D Live for many years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following and we had sort of like an in-group sense of humor and memes and things like that. And you talk about it one way on a freewheeling live stream when I'm by myself and I'm ranting and we make jokes and we play devil's advocate. We play with different positions. But then when you sit down in an interview like this one and people ask me a good faith question, what do you actually believe? Well, then I clarify and I say, well, here I'm not joking. Here I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being rhetorical. I'll tell you.
The wrestlers breaking it down. Immediate counter to the accusation that Piers voiced through Coleman Hughes. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Precisely what I believe. As far as this idea that I'm going to get power and then turn into Hitler, that just sounds totally insane to me. I'll be honest. It just sounds insane.
Do you have aspirations for political power?
Not really. I think that if I wanted to run for office, I wouldn't say a lot of the things that I say. I don't know that a lot of people would vote for me. I tend to offend everybody, even a lot of people that like me. So no, I'm a truth teller. I like to tell the truth. I like to do my live stream.
Who is Nick Fuentes? Tell me about your upbringing. I know you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Tell me about your early years.
Early how? Like my childhood or a little bit later?
Yeah, your childhood, yeah.
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in LaGrange Park, as you say. My parents are ethnics. My father's half Mexican, half Irish. My mother's Italian. And they both came from a pretty rough upbringing themselves. They both were raised by single mothers, not because of divorce, but because both of their fathers had died. They endured a lot of dysfunction. And I think that's one of the reasons they came together and they related to each other, and they wanted to create a normal upbringing for their children. They wanted to have a normal family.
Like any great wrestling season, we need proper introductions. We need to know who the characters are. Piers is introducing this young man, this young Hispanic, my cohort, dude. I think we're the same age, to an older audience. So it's important that everyone understands. Do you want to know the true Hulkster story? Do you want to know Stone Cold story? Absolutely. That way you can really follow along. How you doing, Ephra? He immediately looked down when he said, not really. Body language does not lie. It was deceptive, not reality. Not really. That's a good observation, Ephra. I really did not notice that. I did not notice that. I was so enthralled. I've only seen this once watching it, and I was like, Piers, you're giving us a great show. But you're right. You're right to do this with the body language. I may have noticed something in the other half about body language. When it gets to personal insults, it's great. So we'll see. And Fullhat says, the way he played previously recorded clips and had his guests comment on those clips probably exonerates him from hate speech. Just without. It's possible. It's possible. Piers knows what he's doing. He knows how to get this to go through, and he wants us to get on the airwaves so that boomers can watch this. It's important.
Family life. And so they moved out to LaGrange Park away from the city, and they raised me and my sister and really put us first. I think that's a big reason why I tend to have a lot of these family values or Christian values. My mother quit her job and stayed at home to raise us. And so I have a very close relationship with my parents, with my sister. We're a very tight family. And we grew up in a pretty idyllic town. And maybe we can sort of get into a conversation about politics from this. I loved my upbringing. My mom stayed at home. My dad was working. We're in a mostly white suburb in Chicago. Everybody was maybe half Catholic, half Protestant. It was a baseball town. I played baseball for many years. In Chicago, we love our hot dogs. We have our baseball parade and get a hot dog. And so I love where I came from. I love the city. It's a working class city. I love the people here. They're very good, humble, down to earth, decent people. And I guess I had my political, not to jump ahead, but this is a big part of where my political awakening came from. I sort of left this bubble, if you could call it that. When I went to college in 2016, I went to Boston University, and I read a lot of things online, and I realized the country does not look like LaGrange Park. It doesn't look like Western Springs or Hinsdale or Elmhurst. It looks very...
Notice how we haven't got a hang on yet. He's letting Nick go on. Interesting. We want to get the full story. We want to make sure our characters are properly introduced.
Very different. The country's undergoing a radical transformation because of immigration. And so I saw that and I said, this is not really a desirable change. I don't like the south side of Chicago or the west side or LA or certain parts of Boston as much as I like where I came from. And I guess that's what made me an American nationalist. I said, I want to preserve my home and the things that are familiar to me and the things I like about my home, what makes it America. So that's a little bit about my background. I don't know where you want to go with that, but
well,
that's kind of where I came from.
My first obvious question is, were your parents immigrants to the United States, or were their parents, or were their grandparents? In other words, at some stage, I presume there were immigrants in your family who came to the US. Is that correct?
Do we see Piers setting the trap? I don't even have to show. You guys know what trap is being set here. And there's a lot. You'll notice Piers doing this sly trap setting. You know, he's picking up that chair and he's going to hit him over the head with it, or try at least. This is how Piers excels.
There were. I believe my mother was fourth generation and my father was third generation. So their ancestors came here on my mom's side in the 1860s, I believe, the first wave of Italian immigration. My father's ancestors, I think they came around at the turn of the century in 1900.
So your view of immigration, and we'll get to the specifics about your views on immigration, are they not affected at all by the fact that if it wasn't for immigration, you wouldn't exist?
Let's be clear, and you're going to see Piers do this a lot. These are very naive, very healed questions. At certain points, I'm like, Piers, you're overdoing it. You're coming off too weak. This is clearly the guy is going to have an answer for this. So you have to wonder why he asked those questions. This question is such a simple answer for anyone that's seen this guy online that it leads you to wonder. And this is why it's important for us to have our theory chart. We'll go over it tomorrow about why he's being popularized, Mr. Fuentes here. Because these are too naive of a question. Too naive.
As an American.
Well, I would certainly exist, but like you said, maybe not as an American. Certainly that's influenced in some measure. But I think that the kind of immigration that we had for a long time in the country, it's different than the immigration that we have now. And let's just say for openers, it's different immigrants. They're coming from a different place with a different culture, a different religion. It's not the same as it was. So first, you have a qualitative difference. My ancestors, for the most part, I have 3 European grandparents from Ireland and Italy, 1 from Mexico. They came from Europe. They came from a society where there's a common ancestry, there's a common religion, common civilization. The people that have come in since 65, since Hart-Celler, they're coming from China, India, the Northern Triangle, Mexico, Venezuela. And so first, they're just different people. Secondly, it's a quantitative difference. There's way more, and it's an unceasing, always increasing wave. For the first 3 or 4 waves of immigration, you would have a major influx of immigrants and then it would stop. And then you'd have another wave and then it would stop. This one, it just keeps going up for 35 years and it's too many. So that's really where I would draw the distinction between maybe where I originate from. I would even just simply call that immigration. What this is an invasion. It's a completely different policy.
But you mentioned,
can't even call it the same thing.
But you mentioned Mexico in that list, and your father is half Mexican. So,
yeah,
I mean, by your criteria, part of the invasion would include your father, presumably, and his immediate descendants who came from Mexico.
Very naive, Piers. Very good heel play. Very good.
Not really true, because when my father's ancestors came here, it was a small fraction of the total immigrants that came from Mexico. I don't believe that we should have 0 immigrants forever, or even 0 immigrants from non-white countries. But you have to draw the distinction. My father's father, he was here in the 40s and 50s. It was his parents, or I believe either his parents or grandparents, that came here even earlier. Up until 1965, 90% of the immigrants were coming from Europe. I have no problem with that. If we have 10% of them coming from Mexico or Latin America, maybe that's reasonable, but that's not what it is now. Now you've got 10 million illegals in 4 years under Joe Biden, and you got millions more legal immigrants from China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador, and it's so many with no break for assimilation, and they're all from non-white countries. It's transforming what America is. And again, that's the distinction. That's what makes it unacceptable.
I always believe everybody is a product of their environment. Right? I've interviewed thousands of people. Maybe 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people from all different walks of life. But the one common theme I would say is everyone's a product of their environment. And I was reading some stuff about you in the last few days. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We would be deciding.
Here's his reading here. I'm very curious who put it together for him, because obviously he has final cut, he has final say. He knows how to frame this stuff to come out on the bottom, which is what he's trying to do here, in my opinion. But his reading, you don't see Piers reading often, and he's reading off paper. So who is this team that put it together? You'll notice later he talks about fact checkers. I wonder who that was. Schofield says that immigrant definition comes to bite him later. You guys have seen this, man. We're all right. I'm glad that we have people who are already initiated in this, because it was so much fun to watch the first time. Let's see what we get out of here the second time with this cold analysis, because Efra is saying the logic is not consistent. Efra, please tell me the inconsistency. I'd like to know, because Piers didn't interrupt him. And he's trying to do like a judo wrestling move to get him after the fact. However, it will not work. I wouldn't say it's just Fuentes' ability, but it's also Piers' role. So please tell me, because he's letting him go on. That's what's interesting. And if you can see the inconsistency, then other people can too. And Fohat says, I stand behind America First ideology 100%. And that does not include migrants that come here and obey the laws and customs of our republic and become productive members of society. Very generous, full hat, very generous.
Deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. Said, before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you?
Sins of the father psychoanalysis. I haven't seen Piers do psychoanalysis before. He might have, but it's usually too boisterous. This is one-on-one. And that's pretty interesting to see. He's really trying to get to the bottom of this human being. We really want to know our characters.
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's
an easy comeback, man. That's the thing. You never do this to people. You never attack people based on their family. I've had it done to me in college. In my Latin American relations class, that was really annoying. So this is not a great tactic. You're not supposed to do this. And Piers knows this. Piers knows this.
That's
well,
sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will. And I'm
not trying to ambush you. As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick, to be clear,
I think
I'm not
understands.
ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think everybody knows what that is, but I'll address it. I'll engage with it, and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, and the West Side on Taylor Street, all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around black people. And look, my views about black people and their views about black people are shaped with experiences with black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents would say if they were here, is that for many, many years, the older generations of black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent. In fact, my grandma used to have an anecdote. She grew up in a lot of dysfunction. Her mother was mentally ill, and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. And she would look across the way out the window at a black family in the other apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city is that there's no accountability for the black people. And now Chicago has become a complete dump because these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers. That's the euphemism for it. They're teenagers, but they all come from the same neighborhood. They drive up there and they mug people and attack people, and they destroy cars and destroy shops. We had the Festival of Lights a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a family event. And they light up the trees, and they, there's a big parade. I was in the parade one year, and you had a bunch of black people there shooting each other. 7 people shot, a 14-year-old killed in the Magnificent Mile. And I know there's a lot of black people that feel the same way about this. They say, we've lost control of the city, and we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of black.
I am amazed at Piers' restraint here, man. You would expect the hang on, but not yet, not yet. Piers is taking you out to deep waters, Mr. Fuentes.
Black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so, you know, again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a...
We end with the insult of boomer, but the non-American, I think Piers is an American citizen. So very, very good stuff. And Piers doesn't interrupt. You would expect Piers to interrupt at this point. What is he doing? What is the script?
In a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I think anybody in Chicago would tell you the same.
I live in London. It's one of the biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big, diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before in America.
You got a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems with
Aladdin.
We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it. But I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that anecdote, which just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this already.
But you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No. Well. See here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family. So
okay, so when you told the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote,
look at that. And when Piers has something, he's gonna chase that down. God, Piers' determination. It's like that honey badger meme. It's so good. He will not let things go. He really wants to, because let's be clear here. He's playing the role of a heel, but we also need to see the explosion. You can see that this is angering. This is getting under the skin of Mr. Fuentes. So it's great stuff. We want to see that explosive reaction. That we need a good show, and Piers is going to deliver.
Which clearly, on the face of it, is racist. Right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat at Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on, can I? What's with the interruptions? Can I explain?
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists.
This is the only thing that Fuentes will do repeatedly is to call out the tactic. And come on, you can't, obviously, nowadays, it actually works because you want to see, it's like Inception, right? You want to see multiple levels of irony here. And we want to see the call out of the wrestling move as it's going on. Which is pretty cool to see because Piers just steamrolls past it. You'll see Fuentes do this multiple times throughout the debate. Great stuff.
And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. And these people well, you're a boomer, I guess, too, in a way, 60. Right? You were born in what, 19? Yeah. So you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp.
For anyone that's not aware, Piers hates being called the boomer. He really does not like it. He likes being associated with Gen X, not the boomer generation. So although Piers is obviously the ultimate boomer in a lot of ways, you may not know that. I know that through my connections that have worked with Piers. He hates being associated with the word boomer. He does not see himself as part of that generation. So either Nick knew that or he didn't, but it's a great little knife to throw into Piers. He does not like it.
But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society, but you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is You're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist. And I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. People can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke, okay? I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not.
Once again, we'll see this tactic too, crucifying with your own clips. Very, very good stuff. Everything is dissociated. Piers is not making any accusations. He's lending the words of other people and Fuentes himself to use against him. Very, very good stuff. That way, Piers, they're going to do a rematch. You know there's going to be another brawl. The rematch, part 2. And this ensures that the bad blood is minimal.
Not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
This straight-faced, it's very Charlie Chaplin, man. Like they're going back to the 30s with a lot of the humor that we get nowadays in politics. This straight-faced slapstick type stuff, Three Stooges, straight, the ultimate straight man. It's very funny. It's very funny.
Yeah. Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that, 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that. You just said blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify.
Now, this tactic, you'll see, Piers has done this a lot. We've seen this throughout our show, where Piers does this thing where he kind of rewrites your words to crucify you with them. And if you address it, if you say, I didn't say that, that's when he really wins. And I don't know how Fuentes knew not to bite on that, because this is an old journalist trick. Obviously, Piers knows it from his Daily Mirror days. And it's very effective. It actually is when people try to engage you on the terms that you set. But Piers did not get any bites.
You were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
Do you think it's funny, or?
Yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black American would find it funny? You think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago
Inglewood.
University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the most up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime.
See, who is Piers relying on for the fact-checking here? I don't know if that statistic's right or wrong, guys. I don't really look into that kind of stuff. But you never really see Piers engage in terms of numbers. He usually engages in terms of rhetoric. And it's unusual to see him do that. It's pretty interesting to see him do that. I haven't seen him use this tactic on the show ever. this very statistics focused, fact checking kind of way. I don't know why he thought this was a good idea to come out on top. Obviously, he's the heel. He can't. But it's a very, very New York Times attempt. And you wouldn't expect that from Piers being on YouTube. He's a new kind of journalist.
Statistics say.
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100? Or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But, I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people, and people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass shootings.
What's with the interruptions?
I'm sorry.
We have a hang on. He hasn't dropped. Hang on. But the calling out of the interruptions will continue from this point because Piers is a famous interrupter. We love to watch Piers interrupt on this show. And when you call him out, he will give you the time. Very good stuff, Piers. Starting off very tame.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, you look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Again, another clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really. Unless you want to say that's another of your jokes, but you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment.
I do think that this is a new paradigm in politics, man. But this kind of started in 2016. Let me close my WhatsApp here, man. Where people were starting to embrace the term racist. Unusually, you wouldn't expect that. And I don't know, because remember our theory that if they're trying to bring him in to the JD Vance type coalition, and as you've seen, man, I mean, I've shared the documentary about Peter Thiel and these types that are pushing JD Vance. A lot of them grew up in South Africa. If you haven't seen the Turkish documentary on them, it's good. And they don't have what we see as modern American racial views. And this return to just embracing the label racist. It's really something. I did not expect that to play well. And I don't think Fuentes is doing this in a vacuum. I think that we've debated the percentage, right? But I don't think 10% of America is with Fuentes, but at least the 1 or 2% that are, even that's a bit high. Maybe it's 0.5%. Who knows? Well, it also skews by demographic, as I had everything as pointed out in the past. Are they going to vote or take the endorsement of someone who openly says they are a racist? Because it's great for wrestling, but is it good for electoral politics? I'm not sure. So this is why it's going to be interesting to watch him into the lead up of 2028.
Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted.
My producer also points out what's interesting is that a few times we've seen in this interview, Nick has done a clear like Trump impression, the voice, the cadence, the way of speaking. And we must remember that Piers is buddies with Trump because he won The Apprentice. And here we see Piers, who platformed the original Trump, Donald Trump. He's a reason that Trump is who he is through his interviews of Trump before 2016 and even during 2016 and after. And now he's platforming the new Trump. That's what we're going to call him, the new Trump, which is the new Fuentes wing. Piers is responsible for a lot of political movements, man. As I've said in the past, the anti-war movement in the early 2000s in England and internationally, Donald Trump, and now he is doing this with Fuentes. This would go to the theory that he's endorsing Fuentes' views in some way. I'm not sure I buy it.
To make emphatically
because
sure
my father's...
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. You know, he could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all. Well,
then let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out there.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
This is 28 minutes, well, 26 minutes with the same weave. Look at Piers' weave. He learned from the greatest weaver, Trump, weaving this in, getting the emotional reaction, trying to elicit that response.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job. And if you go on here and say you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy. And he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low. And I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views. And I think that, you know, so let's leave him out of it. Let's just not talk about my father, because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well, then do you accept that you shouldn't talk?
Okay,
listen, that's fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show? And you shouldn't tell...
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not.
So
it's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed a line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're being malicious.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, people are watching this live. They can draw their own conclusions about whether what I just did...
And they will.
Yeah, and I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say, he ambushed me with your own...
Look at this calling out of the kayfabe as it's happening. This is... Dude, they're both calling out each other's tactics. This is great. This is so good. This is John Cena versus Dwayne Johnson, and Johnson saying, "You're gonna hit me with a chair." John Cena saying, "And then you're gonna flip me on my back." Great stuff. We need this level of irony to keep people interested in the politics.
With your own words.
Whoa.
With their own words.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a tabloid journalist. I expected that. I don't think...
Tabloid journalist. Wow, dude. Piers, they did some background on Piers' show for this. This is why it's great stuff. They both know each other. Know your enemy, man. Know your enemy. Obviously, with the kayfabe. But it's good for the audience. It's a great show. It's entertaining.
It's 90% bullshit. But it's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
I think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this, and people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism, I do. Let's talk about racism.
Okay,
let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you've said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it. So I want to play you another clip. This is what you talk about why white people are justified in.
Robert says kind of insulting that tactic. Absolutely, Robert. Absolutely. But why are we doing this? That's what's important to think about. Why would Piers do this? Nick says he's a tabloid journalist. Piers knows how to get a reaction out of people. And that's what he's trying to do. And I'm sure that this has rattled Fuentes. He doesn't really go like full on angry throughout this. But he does get elevated emotion. Absolutely. And Full Hat's mentioning J6. They get into that. Don't worry, Full Hat.
Being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You stand by that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid black people when they see them?
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago.
Once again, I'm wondering about the constituency for these remarks that we have here. A new chatter, lead me to bliss. Or maybe you've been here before, sir. There are racist people from all colors. I respect Nick for owning it and being honest. So maybe there is a public that goes for this. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. We do analysis on this channel. We don't really judge. But maybe there is a public that goes for the open admitted racist. I thought this would have been gone with, I don't know, George Lincoln Rockwell or something like that. This was a vestige of the 70s. After Lee Atwater's revolution of not really saying racist things because it's not coof, it's not good for society. Maybe there is a return to this, and I'm not judging it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying maybe there is a political constituency that is demanding this, and that's interesting. If Fuentes was able to put his finger on the pulse for that, I did not expect that in my lifetime.
I believe she was in North Carolina. There is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger. And I think that at this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime, is because of police brutality. Redlining or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew. And they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. They grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person...
How do you feel about mass shootings at school?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
This is a deep cut for any Piers enjoyers. he loves to go on the gun control thing. He kind of left it behind before. He said that the reason that he did is because he accepts that it's an American idiosyncrasy, just like we don't understand their queen. So he hasn't talked about it in a few years, honestly, probably a decade. So it's pretty interesting to see him bring it back up, falling into his old tactics.
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men. And I'm just,
what proportion of
I'm curious.
What proportion?
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools.
Is my mic working? What proportion?
Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population. And everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60 to 65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb, or are you just not that smart?
Piers has never been strong on this subject, man. I don't know if we have any gun controllers in the audience. I'm from Florida, so my opinions on that. We skew I don't know if we skew, but we have a lot of lefty viewers, and that's fine. I love lefties. I love righties. The only people I hate are conservatives, as you guys know, but even conservatives are welcome. Piers has never been strong on this. It's not convincing to an American to hear him talk about this.
To the children lying dead on the ground.
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people or black people? And that's the difference. The difference is in terms
what I'm saying to you is, by
probability.
your logic, if we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men.
Right. This is a bad tactic by Piers, man. He's not good at this. I don't know why he insists on attacking gun rights. It's not a good idea for him. And Schofield says Piers got lost in the math. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I just want to get through the whole stream. So I might stop once in a while to look at the chats, but it's tough. So yes, Piers got, if you guys really want me to read it, just at me, at King Leo Miami, and I'll be able to read it.
Because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because they're white, right?
So are you playing dumb, or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.00001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools, why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not livable.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white.
All right. I don't know. Dude, I can't stand watching Piers talk about this stuff. It gets really annoying. We'll play a little bit more, and when Piers talks about gun control, I just don't find it convincing, and it really is a bad display. So let's watch a little more, and if not, we'll skip ahead to the next section. And Full Hat says you're not a conservative. I know you're not conservative, sir. You're a constitutionalist. That's fine.
White people, the proportion of
the proportion
again,
of the
are you hearing it? No.
See,
What's
I think the trouble with your
proportion?
statistics is a lot of them don't bear much scrutiny. We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time because you do have a tendency.
See, who are the fact checkers? I really wonder who Piers got together for this. It can't be just his staff. He had to outsource some of it, unless he's using like ChatGPT or something. But that seems a little below Piers. PBD would do that, though.
To just come out with a lot of old baloney. And when you say,
okay,
well, it's true. And when you're confronted with reality,
figure?
you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No. Tell me the number, and then
the only focus of your attention is the black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because you don't.
See, no one's
maybe
buying
you don't
this.
have
This
kids.
argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody sees past that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment. People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment, and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger, in terms of probability, it's not even comparable. And I would say this, to your point, if you're in a
I also think this is fruitless because I think that the gun control conversation is kind of over, man. I haven't seen the left make any progress on that. It's not my bag, so, on a personal level, I'll have that opinion. But this is a moot point. I don't know why Piers thought this would be good to engage on, because it's a very British thing to see. I don't see what the point of it is for Piers to do this. Trump he doesn't care about gun rights. He won on them, and he took it out of the big, beautiful bill. So it doesn't really matter. How you doing, Mystery Lou? What's up?
High school, and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare, and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
No, I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah. All right, we're skipping ahead, dude, because I can't. This is a moot point. It's boring. Let's go over here to when he questions Nick on something else. This is very boring.
Similar crimes, do you? 5 more. Fake. And should never have happened. The person who perpetrated that evil act had a string of previous offences and should have been picked up more, and it should have been amplified more. I completely concur with all of that. But I just suspect you have no idea how many white people have committed similar crimes, do you?
No, because I know it's far fewer from experience. Okay. Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on. And I would add to that, Irina Zarutska wasn't the first one. That was also after Austin Metcalf was killed in Texas.
Sure.
After Carmelo Anthony stabbed him in the neck.
How many times has it been perpetrated by white people?
Well, hang on. Let me finish my point.
But you're
And then
implying
not
that
only
white
did-
people don't do this. And my point to you, Nick
Okay.
Fuentes, is of
Yeah.
course,
Oh, I never said white people don't do
Of course,
it.
deranged white people commit heinous acts. But you don't either know.
No disagreement.
You neither know nor care, or maybe both. Maybe you do know but don't care. You only seem to be focused on black people who commit crimes. And again, if you hadn't prefaced the whole debate about racism by openly conceding you are a racist, I could read other connotations into what you've been saying. But once you've said, I'm a racist, and then you only talk about black crime, I think people can watch this and they can say, yeah, he's a racist. And everything that he says about crime is driven through the prism of being a racist who judges people according to their skin color.
Well, it's funny because it's quite on the contrary. And I said this in a similar monologue. You know, the problem is not that I wake up and I walk down the street and I see someone that doesn't look like me and it makes me angry. The problem is there's a pattern of behavior, which we've all seen. Blacks in America have become narcissistic, and they become narcissistic because they've been told they're victims of racism, they're victims of slavery. They've been told, really, there's no accountability. If they're rude, if they're inconsiderate, if they're criminal, they are told that they have no agency for their actions. They're being told, if you act in this way, it's because the white man made you that way. It's because the system's rigged against you. And so we have been telling black people this for a generation, and now there's no rules. Now they go, and what we hate to see as decent people, not even as white people, but decent people, even black people too, what we hate to see is rudeness, obnoxiousness, inconsideration, criminality, violence. And that's that pattern of behavior that we see all over social media, on
So
the
just to
body
be clear,
cam footage,
you
on
don't
cops.
like black people who play the victim and are rude. Is that your position?
Again, Piers setting another trap. I think we're finally out of gun control. He really does not shine on that, man. That's where the wizard's skills fall apart. Because it's not even rage bait. People don't even get angry about this anymore. The conversation is over. So we'll finally move on. He's setting another sly trap, another sly Piers trap.
I don't like that pattern of behavior.
And who are narcissists?
I see where this is going.
Yeah,
Are you
ahead
gonna
of me.
turn this around on me?
You're ahead of me, aren't you? Because when I said,
Very
what
clever.
black friends have you got? You said,
I am
yay.
kind of black,
Yay.
aren't I?
No, not that. You said,
Oh, yay
I'm not
also.
saying you. I'm just saying your choice of black friend is Ye, who is arguably the number one.
If you don't remember, Piers has the funniest interview with Ye. Chris Cuomo's is pretty funny too. Lex Friedman's is funny, but Piers's was really, really funny. So Piers is a guy who knows everybody. That's why he's great, because he will talk to anybody. And he can come in here with facts on his own conversation with Ye. That's going to be pretty funny.
Black victimhood narcissist in America. Do you understand the problem? So he's your friend. He's one of the very few black people you want to be associated with, but he's the epitome of what you just said you abhor about narcissistic black people.
I disagree. I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. Because Ye, if you've ever met him in real life...
I have, yeah.
Okay, well, then you know. He's nothing but polite, considerate.
Actually, he was very rude to me the last two times I interviewed him. He's a supreme narcissist, and he's also...
Well, you keep interrupting me. You're very rude. Are you black?
I
Because you're being very
apologize.
rude by
I
interrupting me right
apologize
now.
to you.
I'm giving you...
Say the N-word. Go on.
Here's his he hasn't hit him with the hang on, man. He's going to do it, but I've never seen him this restrained. I've never seen Piers this restrained. It's the wizard. It's you want to say that he's giving him enough rope, but that's not the role here. It's not the role.
You a hard time, but I
okay.
do want to
Give me a
finish
hard
my
time.
point. I do want to finish my point about Ye. He is a guy who, when I was with him, wanted to make sure that everybody was heard. Everybody felt included. He's actually a very soft-spoken guy, very polite. And by the way, not violent. When you look at all the rappers that are in the music game, many of them, especially from Chicago, drill rap, they're talking about killing people, shooting people, they gangbang. He notably, if you know about him, he got his start because he was a nerd. He wore a backpack and a polo, and he wasn't a gangbanger. He rapped about his feelings and girls and his dreams and his ambitions. So no, and by the way, he would tell me all the time, he doesn't even feel black. They make him feel.
Whoa, thank you, Robert, for the super chat. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Good stream. I appreciate it, sir. I thought it was worth doing it because we needed to react to this. There's too much content that's come out this week that's going to be worth analyzing. So I really appreciate the super chat, sir. Thank you so much. You are the best, sir. You keep the lights on around the show. By the way, we may be doing another giveaway this in a few weeks, man, because I have I'm gonna miss a show because I'm taking a trip to North Florida, and I think in North Florida I'm gonna pick up some cool stuff because Robert won the last giveaway. I'm glad that you got the bill, Robert. Hope it's on good display. But thank you, Robert. Thank you once again.
Not black, because he doesn't do those things, because he's soft-spoken, because he's artistic, because he's a bit of a nerd or likes fashion. So I would disagree. He's actually not like that at all.
Okay.
We're talking
He's also a Hitler-loving anti-Semite. And we're going to take a little commercial break here, and we're going to come back and talk about anti-Semitism and your views about Jewish people. And indeed,
now it's going to heat up. Let's watch here.
What Yair said about the same subject matter. Film or a left-wing film? It's an you'll want us more. Okay, back with Nick Fuentes. Let's just turn to anti-Semitism. In your interview with Stephen Crowder last week, you answered emphatically that you don't hate all Jews.
The fallout from this is pretty funny, dude. Crowder and Piers got into it on Twitter. We're going to look at that tomorrow. Or maybe we'll do another Piers watch. We got to see what he does tomorrow. It might be an interesting reaction to this. By the way, if you're new here, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Please. It helps the channel grow. Subscribing is free. Commenting is free. Liking is free. And it takes half a second. And thank you once again, Robert. I really appreciate it. Love the sticker.
Is that correct? That's your position?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to play you this clip.
Well, I don't hate any Jews. Let me just amend that. I don't hate any Jews.
Okay. Okay. Let's play this clip.
The reason I've had it is because my opposition to world Jewry and Israel is rooted in absolute, uncontestable fact. We have the truth on our side. That's why we're winning. Because we are telling the truth about the historical antagonism between Jews and Europeans, between Jews and Christians. The theological...
I'm surprised Piers put this on air, dude, because he really is taking one for the team in terms of, for Tucker Carlson, the Vince McMahon of politics, platforming this in the UK. I don't know if this is allowed in the UK. Interesting stuff.
Historical, racial, cultural, and political antagonisms between organized Jewry and the Christians, organized Jewry and Europeans. And the reason that we are winning that argument is because it's real, it's true. I can prove it. I can show you. I can name the names. I can show you the paper trail, the money. That is why we're winning. That is why all of this is raising the consciousness.
When you say you have this opposition to world Jewry, I mean, it's one thing to criticize, for example, the Israeli government over what it's been doing in Gaza. I've done that myself. When you talk about world Jewry, I presume you're talking about the 15 million Jews in the world, and you are opposed to them. How does that square with your position that you don't hate any Jews?
Well, do you take issue with my use of the term world Jewry?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Or do you take issue with it? Do you have a problem with that?
Clarify what you mean by it.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. The gaslighting's crazy because I use that expression on my show all the time. I say organized Jewry, world Jewry. And do you know that for like 30 years, the World Jewish Congress has an annual keynote called the State of World Jewry? Barry Weiss has given it. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. She gives...
Whoa. You can't attack the most beautiful woman in America, Barry Weiss. This is the only parts I had problems with this interview is the attacking of Barry Weiss. You guys know I would drop everything for her. But this is I really... If anyone's British, please let me know. Is this allowed on British airwaves? Because Piers is going to put this on TV.
The State of World Jewry address.
But Nick, what do you mean by it?
I mean, you have to talk about, there's a concept of Jewish peoplehood. It's the sense that they are part of a common nationality, a common tribe, a common people. And so where they reside in Israel, the United States or Europe or elsewhere, they see each other above, or maybe on a different level, alongside their nationality, their state, wherever they reside. If they're in Germany, France, the United States, they see themselves as part of a transnational nation, of an international nation. The Jews in America, the Jews in Israel, they identify as Israeli or American, but they also have something in common. They identify as part of a common nation, which I would say there's a world Jewish population. It's world Jewry. And world Jewry has representatives. There is such a thing as the World Jewish Congress, where they actually elect, it's democratic, all the local Jewish organizations elect representatives to represent proportionally the Jewish population in their area at the World Jewish Congress. And it's sort of like Davos. It's like the World Economic Forum, but it's exclusively for members of the Jewish nation that exists across the world. And so that's a real thing. And I didn't make that up, and that didn't come from 4chan. It's like I said in that clip, I read what they write. I read their books. I watch these speeches. I watch a speech from Barry Weiss. I pay very close attention. So that's what I mean by that. There is such a thing as it's a nation that exists across borders on a global scale. They're organized, and they have a national self-interest as that nation, as that tribe.
So if you don't hate any Jews, what do you like about them?
I like a lot of things about them. I think they're funny. I think they're smart.
And this can go both ways, man, because the first theory is, once again, that Piers is showing the elites, hey, people are angry, people are turning into, we can't say the word, but, anti the Middle East. They are turning racist. You need to respond to the needs of the people. This is very similar to a former writer, his name escapes me, a British writer, Jonathan Gray, who says this, that the neoliberal elites have to actually start taking care of the people in their countries, or there will be a return to racial resentments, ethnic rivalries. Or Piers is mainstreaming this, but I'm more inclined towards the former theory at this point in the interview. I mean, you guys let me know, dude, because it's odd.
Smart. I think that they're pretty remarkable people. And as Christians, especially as Catholics, we say they're remarkable. And this has been adjudicated in Catholic doctrine for thousands of years. We say that they're a witness people. And so we actually, there's provisions inside of Catholic doctrine that says we need to give them special protections because they were a witness to Christ's passion. So, this is why you can't clip the show. You have to watch the whole thing. I say this repeatedly in interviews. I do think they're remarkable. By definition, they're exceptional people. It's just that there is a sort of natural opposition between them and Christians because of the theology. We believe that Christ is the Messiah. They don't. They have been a minority in Christian lands for thousands of years, and they have been pushed around and expelled, and they've been persecuted and segregated. And that's why there's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of distrust. There's maybe some sense of chauvinism among Jewish people. So there is, like I said in that clip, there is an historical antagonism between these two people.
And once again, going into it like this, the thing that Nick is doing, like going into this to this level, has me wonder, is there a voting coalition? I can't imagine it surpassing 1% of America. Is this good electoral politics beyond the kayfabe, beyond the circus, the show? Thank you, Gateway Man. Is there anything here that people will vote on based on antiseptic, as Mr. Elu's saying to say for YouTube not to censor, antiseptic views? Is this something, hey, I'm a racist, I'm an antiseptic person? Does that mean that you are going to vote for someone on that? Is this an electoral thing, or is it just part of the kayfabe, the circus, the clown show, the rodeo? I'm not calling these guys clowns. These guys are wrestlers, wizards, sorcerers.
Peoples between Christendom and Jewry, and that has always been the case in Europe. But I don't hate them, and I think I actually sort of understand them in a weird way. I think that because I've studied a lot of their politics, I think I really kind of know them in a way, and it doesn't come from a place of hatred.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
I do. I have many, yes.
But that's weird because you said this.
Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees. Have we ever been friends? Not since Saul was leading the charge.
And here's Piers again, man. Piers playing dumb, which Piers is not known to do. He really does not play dumb usually. playing dumb in order to try to do a gotcha. And Piers is better at gotchas than this. This is how you know he's throwing the fight, because this is too naive for him. Too naive.
Executing the Christians. Not since the Roman Empire, not since the Middle Ages. Never. We've never been friends. We've never been allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization.
The Jews and Christians have never been friends ever, except for you and your Jewish friends.
Yeah, so easy. As peoples, as nations.
Got it.
Not saying every individual Christian, and of course there have been Christians and there have been Christian converts to Judaism, Jewish converts to Christian. You're nodding your head, but you're asking this. I'm saying as peoples, they've never been aligned.
As a Roman, I'm a Catholic like you, and I have many Jewish friends. I'm just trying to compute what you're trying to say, which is Jews and Christians have never been.
And remember, Piers is Irish. He hides that, but he's Irish, so he is Catholic, which is going to come up later in an interesting way.
Friends ever, and I'm like, well, you have Jewish friends, I have Jewish friends, we're both Catholics, therefore we're Christians. So it doesn't really quite add up.
Well, like I said, as peoples, there has been an historical antagonism as peoples. And you could even say the same about blacks in the United States. Of course, there were black and white people that were friendly with each other, but in many ways, they were set against each other as groups. And I think that's easy enough to understand.
The reason that many people think you're anti-Semitic is that you have regularly downplayed the Holocaust, and in particular, the number of Jewish people who were murdered by the Nazis.
See, this has, I think it's illegal in Britain. Let me look it up. Okay, no, it's not illegal there, but grossly offensive or incitement to racial or religious hatred. So I don't know how Piers is going to get away with this.
It's been said that you believe no more than several 100,000 have been killed. And I want to play you this clip.
People talk about, well, you know, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow, because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15...
This surprised me because I have seen this clip on Twitter. This is a super old clip of Mr. Fuentes making an off-color joke. And I'm surprised at this. Dude, it's crazy how the internet is forever. Like, this stuff will haunt you forever.
Ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make $6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
You think that's funny?
It's funny. It's amusing what you're doing because, you know, that one was a joke. But do you want to talk seriously about the Holocaust?
Yeah, I do, actually. I mean, I do, because I just find it extraordinary that you would think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Why, too soon?
And see, this is obviously this cycle's face being very blatant, being very, very, look, man, like being this blatant and this antagonistic towards the Jewish community and their historical record. You know, we're analysis on this channel, man. You guys can have your own opinions. It's fine. I just wonder what the electoral coalition is for this, man. I don't think anyone's really voting on this. So it seems like a weird place to stake your flag for Fuentes.
Is it too soon to make jokes?
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 6 million, something like that.
So you
8 million?
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could maybe even be more than that.
So why have you doubted the numbers in the past?
I'll tell you why. I really think that every death is a tragedy. However many Jewish people died in the Holocaust. And I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm actually open to believing the official narrative, and I've read some of the conspiracy theories. And to tell you the truth, it's a rigorous debate. But you know what's interesting about this is in many countries, it's not even legal to talk about it. And that's really where my interest in the Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the truth, is that if you wanted to question the number, you would be put in jail in about, 17 or 18 European countries. And I think that's really the more interesting conversation, which is that this is almost like a religious dogma in the West. No other genocide, no other atrocity is treated like this. Could you imagine if in the United States they said the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is 100,000, and if you don't say that, you're going to jail, you're banned on X, you can't have a job? That's the part that's totally insane. And a lot of people, they can't even make up their minds. I think it's actually done a disservice. If your goal, and I'm not saying you as Piers Morgan, but if your goal, if you're an advocate for awareness about this, if your goal is to convince everybody that this is the way the Holocaust happened, I think the last thing you'd want to do is say that everyone that disagrees is in jail and is banned and you're not allowed to say it. So there's really been no open debate about the subject since the scholarship started to be produced about 60 years ago.
But there is no debate to be had about the number of people who were murdered. Even the Nazis, in the trials after the war confirmed the numbers. The amount of documentation that was recovered, notwithstanding the attempts by the Nazis to destroy it, the amount of documentation that was saved and preserved and used for trials and for historical record is unprecedented in the history of mass slaughter of human beings. So we have a very clear idea of how many people were gassed to death in the gas chambers. We have a very clear idea of how many were starved to death, were kept in ghettos, died of disease, of forced labor, of death marches. We know how many Jews were slaughtered. It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that, which may be news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you told me, you do now accept that.
And this is the very Piers tactic. This is kind of the twisting your words, ascribing a position to you. But you're going to see Fuentes does not engage with that. You only lose when you say that's not what I said with Piers. And I think that this is a very strange point to do it on. I don't know if this is to warn, especially in the UK, the elites there be like, dude, maybe we should at least do some good public education on this because this seems to be a growing movement. But it's unusual for him to engage on this. It's unusual for Fuentes to engage on this too. I don't understand why he would debate this, except if only to make his wrestling character bigger, more notorious, more interesting for the public.
At least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
Well, no, I said it could even be higher than that.
Well, it could be higher. That is true.
I think it's at least.
But you accept
you're right.
at least.
It is at least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But
okay.
It could be 100 times
people
more
are
than
be,
that.
Okay, the people are going to be.
Let me respond to the rest of your question.
Sure.
What you're saying, I understand where you're coming from when you say it has been documented and there are confessions and so on. Let that speak for itself. But you don't see, your show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Yep.
But the United Kingdom is censored and Europe is censored. And if you talk about these things, you will be put in jail in many countries. And I think that's where a lot of people start to say, well, if the truth is so clear and if there's such overwhelming evidence, why do you need to throw people in jail for disagreeing? And you yourself said, well, there is no debate. I think
See, because Fuentes is casting himself as his generations, I guess my generation's David Irving, like a World War II revisionist. I love revisionist history, dude. History, I think it's fascinating. I'm a revisionist historian when it comes to Venezuela. Some viewers may know, because it's my heritage. That's what I'm interested in Chile and all of Latin America, in America to an extent. But revisionist history, is this worth doing at all for a political platform? I don't think it's worth it, because usually what you do is you just put the old history aside. So what's the point?
everything is debatable. I think everything at least should be debated. And if the evidence is very one-sided, let the evidence speak. Don't throw people in jail. So do you think that Holocaust denial laws should be overturned?
I don't particularly agree with Holocaust denial laws. I don't think people should be imprisoned.
Okay.
Well, because I have a blanket view now, which has evolved slightly actually over the years, that I have a blanket view that speech should not be criminalized, right? People should be allowed to say what they want to say, and they should be then...
And this is very in Piers' character, the way he's been cast this season of WWE politics. Tucker Carlson said he's the one who's done the most for free speech in Britain. So very good for him to rest on his laurels there.
Made accountable for what they say. If you have an employer, they can make a view about whether you are the right kind of person they want for their employment, as they would make a decision about anything else you do in life. So I actually believe that speech should never be criminalized. It's my personal view. I understand why in places like Germany, they have strong laws about it because they want to move on from what they believe was the most shameful moment in their history. I understand that. Do I want that in my country? No. Am I appalled by what has been going on with free speech in the United Kingdom in the last 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. It is ridiculous that people have been frog-marched to prison cells for stuff they put on social media, right? So, yeah, I do. I think what is more interesting to me about our exchange is I was not expecting you to go the opposite way. I was not expecting you to be so emphatic that at least 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. And there'll be people watching this who I think will be very surprised by that, because you have built a reputation for being, if not a Holocaust denier, then somebody constantly questioning in a downward way the number of Jews who were murdered. That doesn't appear to be what your position is now.
No, and here's what I would like to see for my entire career. When I started my show, it started with a good faith inquiry where I was questioning a lot of these narratives. And I said, what is the answer on the other side? But what I found is that the answer was criminalized. So when you would talk about anything regarding Jews, Israel, the Holocaust, you could be in favor of the official narrative on those things. If you went against, you were banned, censored, and in some countries jailed. And so I actually haven't made up my mind on that because that's not really a matter of interest to me. And there's a lot of analysis and scholarship on both sides of the issue. And I've read both sides of the issue. And honestly, unfortunately, it's hard to judge because there has never been, there's never been a debate on it. And there's never been a debate because of the stigma, because of the censorship. And I think that leads a...
If you heard there, that was a mistake. There's a couple audio mistakes here where Piers is asking for a clip that deals with the leader of Germany during World War II. That's a little tease for what's coming next. Because he really does nail this. Piers is a huge Churchill fan, so it's not surprising that he goes here. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised that this is the way that he took the interview, because if you wanted to crucify... I can't tell if this pushes people away from Fuentes or pulls them in a lot of ways. The heel act, I think it's inarguable that on the surface, Fuentes wins this debate. And Piers looks like he lost. So naturally, it's going to the attention will gravitate towards Fuentes' performance, and that's Piers' role here. But around these issues, it's like, is anyone going to get elected on, I want to open an inquiry into the true nature of deaths in World War II? I don't think so.
A lot of people to say, well, what do they have to hide? Because you can say on your show, well, I'm personally against Holocaust denial laws, yet they still persist and the social consequences still persist. And I think that is the anomaly. And people have to wonder, okay, why is it that way? And what I said in that clip is the reason the Holocaust casts a long shadow is because it confers a political benefit upon organized Jewry. That is what they always fall back on. They cannot be criticized. They cannot be named. They cannot be talked about lest there be another Holocaust. And no other tragedy is treated that way. And no other ethnic group has a get out of jail free card. Just play that. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust. You can do whatever you want and defend all your actions. That's the part that people are getting upset with. That's the problem.
I don't know any right-minded person who believes that Jewish people weaponized the Holocaust for their own personal get-out-of-jail-free or whatever you called it.
You don't know anyone that does that? That believes that?
I'm sure there are some people that do that, but it's such a ridiculous generalization. You know, the truth is that most Jewish people have lost relatives in the Holocaust. In fact, I want to play you two clips. One is where you talk about Adolf Hitler.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Piers does not usually go into profanity, but here he's quoting, so he'll do it for emphasis. And it's an interesting clip to bring up. I'm using the word interesting a lot, for lack of a better word, but it's an odd clip to bring up, not to attack Fuentes, but once again, on the electoral side, let's say you're trying to bring Fuentes in for the Vance coalition. Why would this make someone less radioactive than a few years ago? But Americans seem to have a common memory of World War II as the Germans were the bad guys. So why would you want to stick by this claim, which is what Fuentes is doing here? If you want to win electorally, if it's just for notoriety, that's fine. But it's odd to stick by these claims, but it does add to authenticity. At the very least, is Fuentes like this Father Coughlin figure? Is this what he's aspiring to at best? You know, because in that case, you know, you don't really attain power, but you do have to be courted or silenced.
Yes, I do.
One of them,
and I'm tired of pretending he's not.
And we have the literal Joker. Life imitates art, huh? The literal Joker quotes. We have Piers Morgan playing the role of Murray. This is a great synthesis of the whole interview that Fuentes does live. Murray is here, Robert De Niro in Joker 1, and Fuentes over here is Arthur Fleck, or the Joker. Could it be any more on the nose?
To be honest.
This is the problem, you see. It's a bit like when you just say, I'm a racist. You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein, who, when he heard I was interviewing you...
This is insane. This was Piers's worst moment on this, man. I am surprised he did this, even as a heel, because this is really, really, really a bad argument here.
He's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because he also told Tucker Carlson that you admire Stalin. But let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might...
Look at this. We always analyze the clothes. Both Nick and Piers have suits on. The lighting is good. It looks good. He brings on this heel here, who is... His hair's not done properly, what he's left of it. He's dressed like a journalist, which is slobby. The lighting is bad. No makeup. Sure, it adds a personal message. It's personal. It's from my home. But this is such a bad look. This is such an easy beatdown for Fuentes to do, because he brought on the weakest character in the wrestling show so far. This guy looks like someone who you would pick on at school if you were a bully. I never did that, but if you were a bully, this is a guy you would pick on. Very bad choice. And Piers knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He probably had him record this message. And he didn't tell him, hey, put on a suit, get some good lighting. He brought on a guy who does not look the part.
I might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death, sent my great aunt to the gas chamber, my great uncle, my cousin. My grandmother on my father's side ended up being one out of...
And dude, also, I'm going to say, because we've talked a lot about this show, about how the propaganda, I'm using the term neutrally, like the public image of the people of the Jewish faith in the US has taken a nosedive. And I guess the UK too. This is a very bad way of doing this. Listen, and I speak from experience. If I am in a debate about Venezuela, which I would never debate because I don't debate, I wouldn't go, oh, you know, it's so bad because my mom had to leave and I had family that had issues over there because of the criminality and it was so bad, because that's a non-argument. That doesn't matter. We're talking statistics. We're talking facts. We're talking history. I'm not going to come in here with a personal diatribe, not near tears. This guy's not crying, but this is such a bad tactic. I don't understand why you would use this to castigate someone for their judgment of your history. If I'm taking on someone who's saying that Maduro's a good guy, I'm not going to sit there and cry about my family. It's not their business to care, or the audience's.
7 children, the only one that survived the war. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well,
Schofield says Piers's boomer logic was to pull on the heartstrings of an audience that doesn't care for a moral compass. Big L. That's true, sir. But Mr. Schofield, I would say too that, dude, I know it from personal experience. If I try to tell someone about my family's experiences in Chile, you know, how my family had to leave because of Pinochet, or in Venezuela because they left because of the coups, they don't care, and they have no reason to care. You know, I guess on some heartstrings, maybe in the 70s up until the 2010s in a movie you could do this, but in real life it's a bad tactic. Just my opinion.
Took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my grandmother and to a state collective farm, sent my grandfather to the gulag. You might try asking him why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may all be a big joke to him, but he complains that he was 18 when someone tried to cancel him. Well, Stalin and Hitler arrested my mum and my dad when they were 10 years old. So perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
Right. Mr. Elu says they can just say anecdotal. Absolutely. If I said that, if I'm arguing and I'm telling you, oh, you know, the secret police in Chile was bad. They were killing people. I know people that were killed because of this. You don't care. It's anecdotal. It's stupid. There's figures. There's facts. There's argumentation is a science that was discovered 2,000 years ago in Greece. This is the stupidest thing you could do. It's all pathos. And the world is too autistic for pathos at this point. It's all ethos and logos and rhetoric.
See, that's the reality of your jokes, although I haven't ascertained yet whether you are joking when you say that Hitler was very fucking cool. Are you joking, or do you actually think he was very fucking cool? The most genocidal monster of the last 150 years?
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
and again, here, this is why it's a bad argument from Piers. Look, I'm not going to argue if the leader of Germany during World War II was really effing cool. I'm not going to do that. But if someone tells me, hey, Hugo Chavez was really fucking cool, I'm going to deny that. A guy in military uniforms nationalizing property, fighting the U.S., saying that President Bush smells like sulfur? No, I'm an adult. I recognize that some things people will perceive as cool and some things they will perceive as uncool. So it's a very bad argument to argue in aesthetics, someone who's not even here. For both of them, but for Piers especially, this is a bad cross to try to crucify Fuentes on.
Your generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So maybe the pearl clutching has a way to go for families whose family members.
Oh my! And again, once this is something I've noticed a lot of people do. Your generation doesn't know. Well, Piers does this with the Blitz in England. He says, "Well, your generation doesn't know." You don't know. You're a boomer. You didn't live that. You did not live that. So why would anyone care? You cannot. Dude, I could go on sob stories about my family from the 1700s and how we were wrongfully persecuted in Latin America. Does anyone care? They don't care, and they have no reason to.
Gosh, yeah, we got all that. We, you know, me mom, like we're, you know, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler.
Because he doesn't find it funny when you say Hitler's very fucking cool.
I don't care. I don't care.
I know you don't care. That's fine. You don't have to care.
So why bring up the clip, Piers? Why bring up the clip if he doesn't have to care? Which is why I would never bring something like that up in a debate.
He does care.
Does that guy care about America? Does that guy care about me and my country and my family? No.
He cares what you, a prominent conservative in America, has to say about Adolf Hitler. Now, what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
Okay.
And that's Piers at his worst rhetoric. Very fucking a monster. You're giving the whole game away, man. This is too Healy. Way too Healy, man. This is stone cold crying on camera. Makes no sense.
And that's a clip. I think he's very fucking a monster. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah,
I mean,
do.
can we all grow up?
I do.
Can we all grow up?
He murdered
That
12
is just
million
childish.
people. He murdered 12 million
Okay.
people. What is very fucking cool about that? Tell me.
The edits, it's just cool. The uniforms, the parades, it's cool as a guy. You look at World War II, and it's fascinating and it's interesting and it's
Yeah, Ephra says, I understand the argument of not caring, but we can learn from mistakes in history. Just saying. That is true, Ephra. I do think that regardless, I think Martin Luther King was right about history being a long arc that bends in a certain direction. We're just not sure which one that is. So I don't know. I think history is largely cyclical and you can't really get around it. But yeah, you're right. There is value in that, but you have to remove emotion from it, Ephra, in my opinion. Right? If I wanted to talk to you about, I don't know, the Latin American debt crisis, I'm not going to go to how it affected my family personally. You know, I'm going to talk about the economics of it, the bond market at the time, and how it affected poor people, the bourgeois class, the aristocracy. But I'm not going to do it on this personal level, like, oh, my family, because at the end of the day, it's your family. You know, no one has to care except your family. No one has to care. They can, but they don't have to.
compelling and it's cool. And, you know, we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people and give our honest opinions. And then we literally get an old Jewish guy from England who's going to say, oh, that's not very funny, mate. Me mom. And it's like, shut up. Like, you know, no one is in favor of genocide. So let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of.
Also, it's how, Ephra, I would say it's how you bring it up, right? Because if it's all appeal to emotion, like, oh, my family suffered, then no one really has to care. If you come in with some facts, some figures, a narrative besides how my family suffered, people will, they'll take a listen. They'll be like, okay, at least it's something interesting being said. But when it's just your family, people are like, unless you're trying to date someone and they want to know about your family, I don't think they really care about your background most of the time, you know?
A Holocaust or genocide.
Do you think if half your family
had been,
you think if half your family had been wiped out by very fucking cool Hitler, you'd still think he was very fucking cool? Or would you think that actually he was a despicable monster who murdered 12 million people, who targeted people because they were disabled or Jewish or Romani Gypsy or whatever it may be, and that he systematically destroyed people, incinerated them in gas chambers? Do you think that you would find it very fucking cool if your family had been through that? Or do you think you would find it very fucking disgusting? And perhaps moderate the number of times you laugh about it, or want to joke about it, or want to abuse someone like Danny Finkelstein, who's written incredibly powerful books about what happened to his extended family at the hands of the Nazis and your other hero, Stalin. See, my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again the mask slips, and it slipped again here with what you say about
the heel calling out the face. You're not all that you seem to be.
Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6
million. And this is what I mean. Look, Ben Bernanke, of all people, there's a very famous article. You'll read it in business school if you waste your money on that like I did, where he talks about capital controls and how they were used in Germany in the 30s and how it led to an economic resurrection. I'm not sure if that's really fucking cool, but there are tactics. Like Effer said, we can learn from history. And to do that, you have to actually read history. You have to care about it, you know? But no one actually does. That's all I'm saying, is that you will lose an argument if you try to black out a whole period of history, no matter what it was. It's like if I were to say, oh, Hugo Chavez did nothing good. That's not true. There were good things that were done, things that should be kept. That's just me. Effer says, yes, I do agree with removing emotion. It's about setting standards. There is a reason why the scientific method works. Absolutely. For example, we set the kilogram as universal for universal weight. Absolutely. Kelvin, decimal time used in every computer. There's a reason that we try to bring things to their bare bones. Economics is a field that tries to do that, but it's the dismal science.
Million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this and go, this guy's disgusting. Why would he say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? For shits and giggles? What is it? What motivates you to say something like Hitler was very fucking cool?
It's for this. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer. And we've spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying, he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And,
not that
and what
serious.
I'm getting at.
Not that serious.
Do you want to say more about he's a monster?
You're not a kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
Do you see? I told you the boomer thing would get under Piers' skin. And now he's going after his age.
I know.
Right? You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
okay? You're a fully formed adult who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain is taking you off these rabbit
Is this an interview or is this...
I see Mr. Elo in full hat. Guys, full hat, you're not right about that, man. Hugo Chavez eliminated cataracts in villages in Bolivia, and it cost Venezuela almost nothing. And that's something that I would say has to continue. So he did a lot. That's why I don't like to condemn like anyone just completely, because they have things that you look at and you go, oh, you could do this for cheap and it works. Why not? And he did give heating oil to, I mean, it's not necessary in Cuba. But yeah, he did do a lot of public works in Montego Bay in Jamaica, stuff that was very cheap to do. It was very badly planned economically. But that's why you can't condemn anything out of history like that. People they're more complicated than they seem.
This a lecture. Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is and to dismiss the very
Now, I think saying that the leader of Germany was really fucking cool is definitely uncouth, and it is a big statement.
Powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives, okay? The Schindler's List. Let's just be honest. The propaganda is over the top. We have been in America.
What about
and
the Schindler's
everywhere.
List?
Hey,
tell me about the Schindler's List. Well, tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners, for our entire lives. And do you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we have thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian, because they've told us if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives.
Honestly,
it's true. And that's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because this is bullshit.
Honestly,
yeah, it's a crock. We don't want to hear any more about me mom and me dad. That's the crock of shit.
No, listen. What you just said is a crock of shit. And
you've never seen Piers. He's not emotional, but when he goes into this kind of argument where there is no argument, it's just an insult. He really is throwing the game, man. He's throwing the game. He's throwing the game. There's a lot better ways of attacking him here. Yeah, Schofield's saying that this is a deeply anti-American position to admire our historical enemies, which Piers could have emphasized instead of the emotional angle. That's what I'm saying, and that's how you know he's throwing the fight. There's no way that he doesn't know that. Who does this work on? Who does it work on? And Full Hat, you are right about Venezuelan oil. It's very, very tough to get out, and it's very dirty. But you can't do it.
It's true. It's called the open society.
In your gut, you know it is. You weaponize this stuff.
You know.
You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you just said.
I'm banned from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know who you're talking to?
Yeah,
I do it for money.
And by the way,
how much money you make? Your company's worth $100 million.
Your company's worth $100 million. This is good for Piers, man. To have someone repeat the claim, because Piers was bragging about it on Twitter. Get into Discord, guys. In the Discord, we were talking about it. How the $100 million valuation for Piers' company, which is basically a bribe for Piers' time, in my opinion, and his connections to whether it be MBS or Trump or Ronaldo. It must be very sweet to his ears, despite all this, to hear Fuentes reiterate that his company's worth $100 million.
Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America.
And you shouldn't
I'm
have
banned
been.
from processing credit cards.
And you shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you, you shouldn't have been, right? I don't agree with that. What happened to you?
Then don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a
How
grift.
much money? How much
if I
money
wanted
are
to be
you?
a grifter, I'd be like you,
How
and
much
I would
money
go
are-
and say,
How much money are you making?
Calling the wizard a grifter. We're all in the grift, man. We're all in the grift. And I see Mr. Palaki's music says he's on the no-fly list. I would just say Palaki's music that it's not really hard to get on the no-fly list. I don't think that that's good evidence. Sure, it's not great to be on the no-fly list, but it's not particularly hard to get on there.
I'm making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys
I'm
overplayed
not
your
done
hand.
hearing about that.
Okay, well, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country back.
I've got three
we're
sons.
not listening
I've
to
got
crime
three
minorities
sons.
anymore.
I think that this is this is a great argument from Fuentes, not just in regards to his positions. I don't know if his positions will prevail. None of us know. But these boomer arguments, this is the same reason that Zoran Mamdani won in New York, man. People are fed up with them. They are done. Anyone under the age of 45 wants to think bigger. They want something beyond neoliberalism. They want something cooler. There's so much more to hope for. And Piers is going to appeal to his kids and how they aren't anything like this. But this is a bad argument too, Piers. Piers knows that his kids are kids of privilege. They live a different life than everyone else.
I've got three sons, and they don't share your views about slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years or more. They can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration and other issues. The two things are not mutually incompatible. You can have different views about different things. It's your lack of humanity and compassion for people about things like the Holocaust, about slavery. It's that people find so contemptible. And I don't understand why you need to do that. Is it, again, I just ask you, is your motivation financial? Is your motivation for fun? What is the motivation to saying these outlandish things, which you don't need to say, and which I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect a lot of it is performative. So what is the motivation?
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called The Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again? And they came up with the consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse.
And this is the right-wing perspective on Popper's views. And while there may be some truth to it, I think that the bargain with neoliberalism is economic growth that is somewhat distributed amongst the population. And the reason we're having this debate is even happening is because that economic growth has stagnated, or it has gone exclusively to the PMC, the professional managerial class. Not even I guess the bourgeois and the petit bourgeois are still making money, but normal people are getting hit hard. And that's why this kind of conversation is even happening. So this might be the right-wing perspective on it, but I do think that the point stands that neoliberalism, the Popper open society, is falling apart because of the lack of economic growth.
And pluralistic, and that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this, our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years, my ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country. And these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, They don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
In Gaza, it's against whites.
How many Christians are there in the world? Like me and
1 point some billion,
Yeah,
2 billion.
How many Jews are there?
15 million.
Okay. So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
who am I losing to?
White people,
who am I losing to?
White people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it. Mass migration. Oh, you're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, they have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority. And that's true in Canada, Australia, all the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be in Israel. In 50 years, there isn't going to be a white Christendom.
You don't believe people should get married.
I think that's that's a weird way of putting it, because essentially, is the Fuentes position white Zionism? I won't use that word again because we'll get taken off. Is that what the right-wing Groyper position is? Essentially to make the United States Israel, but for, can't say that country. To make the United States that country over there? Because I think if they made that argument clearly and dropped all the other stuff, there could be a lot more get electorally, possibly. Not even sure, because America has the immigrant history. So it's tough. It would break with the national character that people are inculcated with.
Right?
I think people should get married. I'm a Christian.
But you're basically anti-marriage, really. You've talked about this. You've talked about...
Are we done talking about white genocide?
Well, no, I'm coming to the same part, because you seem very...
Watch the weave. Watch the weave.
Resistant to the idea of marriage. You've never got married. You've talked very scathingly about henpecked husbands. Just take a look.
That's true.
Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like, they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like, you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You fucking talk too much. You're a bitch.
So I didn't know that Fuentes was into the red pill woman position too, which is man, this stuff has spread everywhere, huh?
We'll obviously get to the brazen misogyny part of that a little later, but I'm just curious. On the one hand, there's this terrible genocide going on of white people. On the other hand, you want people effectively to stop going near women because they all turn out to be so ghastly, so they shouldn't presumably procreate. So how does that work? I mean, aren't you, with your rhetoric, actively encouraging men not to associate with these ghastly women, therefore not have any more children? Therefore, you are contributing, Nick Fuentes, to the diminishing white population. I'm confused.
And here we have an explicit playing dumb from Piers. He doesn't do that often. He really lay it on thick in this interview.
I tell my followers to get married all the time. I tell them that it's best for everybody to get married. And I think that's the only way that you can have sex. I think that's the only licit way as a Catholic, as you know, to have sex is within marriage.
Why don't you get married?
I'll get married later. It's been difficult for me because people are shooting at me at my house. I don't know that I don't want to have kids and a wife. You know, my wife would be screaming about that. Me, you know, I have to be able to take risks and be able to say these things. It's difficult to bring a family into a life that's like that. But for my followers, I tell them to get married. But what's happening with women...
You literally just told your followers... Well, hang on. In that clip, you literally told followers, women, they get old, they get fat, they get ugly, they get very annoying. So where's the incentive to get married to women? There isn't one. You're actively telling them the opposite.
You're extrapolating a lot. We can complain.
Just quoting you back yourself again.
No, but you're extrapolating and saying, well, you say women are annoying, so therefore, what's the incentive? We have to do it in spite of the fact that they are annoying. We have to do it in spite of the fact that...
This is the only red pillar that I've seen even take this position, that you should do it in spite, because the Myron Gaines grifter type will tell you that woman, you should stay away from them, that you should use them. I've done this bit before where we've talked about these guys, but at least this is somewhat healthier than what they preach.
That they talk too much. We can get them to lose weight. We can put them on peptides. We can get them to the promised land, but it's going to be
Do you think this view of women may be why none of them want to go near you?
And here's a personal insult. Piers, you're laying it on too thick.
Say the N word. Go on.
Come on, Piers.
Oh, you should see my DMs. It is quite the opposite. They're called the Groy-bets, and I'm actually batting them away. Granted, not all of them are attractive. Some of them are attractive.
Are you actually? Look, just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I've no idea what the answer is, and you haven't got to answer. But are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
This part here is hilarious, man.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
See, basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually...
Look at that. It really hurt Piers, the boomer comment. Look at his face. Look at how angry he is.
You're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women...
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy... Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
Wow. Very low, Piers, especially since he established himself as a fellow Catholic.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's always
you think you're an expert in women?
Free love.
Given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy, and your kids are empathetic, and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust, and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So we are going back to the way
another clip of yours about women.
A lot of women want to be raped, and when I say raped, I mean like that sounds bad when I say it like that.
See, where did his team get these clips? They're even different backgrounds. They're different backgrounds. Ephra says this is the equivalent of getting kicked in the nuts. Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely. It's a very... Wait, who do you mean, Ephra? Do you mean for Piers or for Nick? Because I can see it going both ways.
But there's like a lot of...
But where do they get all of these older clips? Like, how did his staff find this and put it together? Because I assume this is years old. How do they find this stuff?
Women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
And Tucker and Nick talked about this. Tucker, in a separate interview with Chris Williamson, another, I can't stand the guy, was talking about how female fantasies are violent and how he's uncomfortable with it. So Piers is kind of breaking away with the modern view that a lot of his cohorts are taking. Tucker, I assume even Candace Owens, are taking on women, which is odd to see. Piers is still a defender, still holding the fort down. Good for him.
You think women want to be raped, do you?
That's what the studies show, Piers. That is what these statistics say.
But that's what you believe,
They have fantasies. They have fantasies about it. I don't think that they want to actually get raped, but there's a study out there. Get ready for this. It says 62% of women have rape fantasies. And if you read anything that they're reading, if you watched what they're watching, what do you think 50 Shades of Grey is about? What do you think Twilight is about? I mean, that's just true.
You think women want to have the shit beaten out of them, as you said?
Yeah, and it's very disturbing, but it's true.
This is echoing Tucker Carlson's point. Tucker Carlson is saying the same stuff. I don't really have an opinion on the matter. Robert says he is a virgin. Yeah, and the only thing I'd say in his defense in that aspect is that he claims, and I have no reason to doubt him, that he's a traditional Catholic. I'm a postmodern Catholic, so that would make me different. And I don't begrudge anyone who tries to live that lifestyle. It's not for me. I don't really understand it. I think it's a little anachronistic. I don't think it's wrong though. It's like a priest. I admire a priest, but it's an unusual way of living.
Do you think your views on women might change if you actually ever had a relationship with one or had sex and actually had a proper relationship? I mean, people say the reason you're so angry about women is you're basically an incel.
Well, I'm not angry about it.
You sound very angry. You sound very, very angry about women.
I'm passionate. It's an issue.
You're
I'm
not passionate.
about.
You're sounding very bitter about women, as if women have done a terrible disservice to you. But when you don't have relationships, you don't have sex, when are they doing these terrible things to you that's made you so hateful towards women? I'm really curious.
I would like him to see him ask this to the fresh and fit people. I really would like to see that. Because last time he had them on was with that Lily Phillips girl where he dropped the famous...
Say the N-word, go on.
I want to see him take on the red pill people. That would be great.
Was that... I don't think that was a hateful clip. I think I was laughing. I said they want men to beat the shit out of them. And that's just true. I mean, when you look at the state of modern women, all they do is lay in their bed, doom scroll, they're chilling out. They're getting a little fat. It is what it is. I don't know what the average weight is, but they're getting a little heavy. And any guy that is playing the field these days will tell you that. I mean, and I know a lot of the Chads. I am an incel. I'm friends with a lot.
Yeah, Ephra and Robert are pointing out that Piers is digging. He's doing psychoanalysis because we saw it at the start where he started it, and now he's continuing with it. He could be trying to get deep, and it does strike me as making Nick uncomfortable to an extent. He doesn't really flip out. But what he's doing here is, like you're saying, he's searching to get that reaction to really sell this show, which he kind of does get a little later. Mr. Elu says, did he ask Lily Phillips to say the N-word? He actually did. It was great. He is great. And Ephra says that he's laying on the gay allegations. Yeah, absolutely. And he's not letting them go.
A lot of Chads like Bradley Martin, Clavicular, they agree with me. You know, there's sort of like this alliance between the guys that don't have sex and the guys that get the most sex. We know what women are about. It's the guys in the middle. Guys like you in the middle. It's the beta male orbiters that say, she's amazing, you're a misogynistic pig. Because I don't know what that is. I guess
well, come on, let me explain to you what I think it is. I think when a 27-year-old guy who's never got laid, never had a meaningful relationship with a woman, says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Elu. It wasn't Lily Phillips. It was one of these right-wing girls. It wasn't Lily Phillips. That would be funny. It just hit me now. No, it's not Lily Phillips, the actress. No.
Should stay at home. That all they do is fantasize about being raped and being beaten up. That's what they want. That they're annoying. That they get fat. That they get...
Notice the body language. It's totally show. It's great stuff.
Ugly. That's a misogynist. Now, you may not understand it because your knowledge of women is so incredibly tiny, but actually you are the embodiment of a misogynist. It couldn't be clearer. And if I was in a way, you have the deep-rooted misogyny of some of the actual boomers I know. Yet here you are, 27 years old.
Notice how Piers said the actual boomers as opposed to Piers, who's not an actual boomer. He got under his skin with that. I don't know if he did that on purpose, Nick. If he knew that was Piers's trigger, he hates it. I'm telling you, if you ever meet Piers and want to get under his skin, call him a boomer.
And most of the current studies show that a lot of men are really disenfranchised from society, no longer have physical relationships with women if they've ever had them, never associate with women, and build up instinctively misogynist views about women. And I fear you're in that position. You're just a bit of a lonely guy who wants to get laid and can't for whatever reason. And it's made you bitter about women. And I don't know where that's come from, but it's fascinating.
No, see, here's the thing. First of all, you're very caught up in the labels. It's always, you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
You said you
these
were
words
a racist.
mean nothing to me. Well, can I respond?
You gave yourself the label.
What is this?
You said, I am a racist. I didn't give you the label.
Okay.
You said, Nick Fuentes, I am a racist.
Calm down. Calm down.
Did you?
He hit him with the calm down. Piers.
Say the N-word. Go on.
Are you going to let that stand? The master of hang on. And he does. This is wild. Mr. Elu says, is Piers Gen X? He is Gen X. Technically. but he's like one of the last boomers, first Gen X. And if you've read The Fourth Turning, which my producer is trying to get me to read, you'll know that people that are born in the cusp of generations do not like being associated with the older folk. It's like a 99 Zoomer like myself. I would never claim to be a millennial. I would not like that, even though it's pretty silly because you're pretty close to a millennial, but you do not want to be associated with that previous generation.
It's okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
here's
I didn't give you the label. You did.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you're.
Why are you yelling? Dude, if they should do Jubilee, one Piers surrounded by 20 Nick Fuentes. That would be so funny. Calling out the tactic. Why are you yelling at me? He's trying. The kayfabe is so kayfabe that you call out the kayfabe to make it even more sellable.
You're trying to infer something that didn't happen. You said, I gave you the label of being a racist. No, you did. You said, I'm a racist. Okay. You gave yourself the label.
You're going to have to tone it down a little, all right? You're going to have to bring it down a notch and relax. This is just an interview, okay? Please calm down. All I said is you're hung up. I didn't say you gave me that. Maybe I did.
You did.
But here's what I mean. What I mean is you're just hung up on proving you're a misogynist. Okay, you're a racist. Okay, you denied the Holocaust. And I'm not about the labels, man.
You didn't deny the Holocaust.
Past that.
As I said to you, look, Nick, I just wanted to go over the stuff that everyone uses out there about you and get you to respond. And we are getting, I think, a long way in this interview. Right?
Okay.
You didn't deny the Holocaust. You accepted there's been a Holocaust of at least 6 million Jews.
I'm a maximalist. I'm a Holocaust.
That is significant.
I think it's more.
You did admit you're a racist, and you have spelled out a thought process about women, which is the purest definition of misogyny that I've ever seen. And you've said you're not gay. So we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Well, look, and I own the labels, okay? But I just don't care that much about them.
That's fine.
I feel like the whole...
I'm not saying
this is like a weird...
I'm not saying you have to care. Nick, you don't have to care about any of it. I promise you. Right? That's not why I got you on the show. I wanted to give you a fair crack, which I think I have. We've gone over a lot of stuff. We've got a bit more to go.
They agree on a fair interview. Great stuff. Great stuff. It's a fair fight. They don't need Vince McMahon there to arbitrate. It's a fair fight. It's a fair fight.
I genuinely don't think I've ambushed you with anything you couldn't have been expecting.
No.
I don't think I've been overtly hostile. In fact, when you've asked me to calm down, I've calmed down. I don't want to.
No, and Piers Cox. He says, you asked me to calm down, and I calmed down. You've never seen Piers do this before. This is unusual behavior. This does not compute. What is the wizard doing?
I want to have a hostile, angry, shouty match with you. I simply want you to spell out exactly what you've meant about all these things, and people can then be the judge of them. So let's take another break, and we'll come back and talk about Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others.
While they're on that break, I'm going to get some water. I'll be right back.
Christmas is peak time for online shopping sprees, but that also means it's peak time for hackers and data brokers who steal your information online. The solution is very simple. Use ExpressVPN to shut them down. Top-tier encryption keeps your activity hidden, even on dodgy public Wi-Fi, which is perfect for holiday travel. You can set your location to 105 different countries, which lets you access content from all over the world. Users save hundreds on streaming and even plane tickets with ExpressVPN. All for $3.49 a month. It's a no-brainer. I use it, and you should too. Right now, you can get an extra.
All right. We're back. We're going to power through tonight. We're going to finish this.
But you've grown increasingly disillusioned, I think it'd be fair to say. Let's play a recent clip from you about Trump.
We played this game in the first term. We're 10 years in. And you still have these people, I hate to say it, but they're just like in denial. And they're like, okay, everybody, let's all go on Twitter and let's tell Trump, don't screw over your voters. Okay, hey, Trump, don't hire John Ratcliffe in the CIA. Like, what are we doing? We lost. It's over. The time to make demands was during the election when he needed the votes. He's a lame duck president. He doesn't need anything from us. He's not even on Twitter.
Now we're getting something interesting, because this is where it goes to electoral politics. Who is trying to court Nick here? Because here Piers, and this is going to Trump, is showing Trump that a young voter that voted for him no longer supports him like he did before. I'm sure this is the first time Trump will see this clip or hear about it. And he is going to show him that his young supporters have turned more extreme, if we can call it that.
He's on Truth Social. So what are you talking about? We're going to all rally and tell him, don't hire yet another neocon?
Now, over the weekend, you posted this on X. You said performative cruelty is the perfect phrase to characterize the Trump admin and the mood of the MAGA movement.
I'm glad Fuentes said it, man. Richard Spencer said it first, who, as I've said before, odd bedfellows, right? I thought Richard Spencer would be an idiot, but he's actually pretty smart. And Richard Spencer, he said that Trump is a performative sadist. And I'm glad that more people are seeing this, man. People that even are right wing, even are extreme, are saying that there is a lot of sadism coming out of the Oval Office, because it's gross. It's gross. The videos we've reviewed from DHS, they may be very funny, very well edited, but they're gross. They're cruel to the artists whose music they steal to make them. They're cruel to the migrants that they expose on there. Just, you don't know who they are. No one knows who they are. And it's about time more people start saying this about the Trump administration.
In order to compensate for his compromises and failures, Trump has to fall back on mean-spiritedness to appeal to the basest instincts of its followers. It's really sad. I mean, do you think you're the best person, Nick Fuentes, to lecture people about performative cruelty?
I don't even think that matters, man. I'm glad that Piers is getting this to Trump's ear, man, because it's truly ugly what they're doing in terms of the way they're going about these deportations. Even if you support that, you can't tell me that it's good politics. Maybe it is in a postmodern world, but they do look very ugly when you make these hype edits of them. It's really ugly.
Why are you accusing me of being cruel? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
How am I cruel?
You're cruel about black people. You're cruel about women. I mean, you're cruel about a lot of people, and you're very.
And this is Piers playing the heel, because Fuentes, all he said are words. Whether you agree or disagree, if they make you angry or happy, doesn't really matter. But Trump is doing stuff that's hurting everyday people. And beyond illegal immigrants, you know, has your gas gotten cheaper? Have your groceries gotten cheaper? They haven't. And you're being gaslit by the administration.
Performative.
Okay. I don't think I'm performative. If anything, everyone else is performative. I'm authentic. You know, whatever you want to say about me, it's real. It's from the gut. But yes, I do think it's performative. And what I mean by that is, you know, when they're doing the deportations, they know the deportations are not where the base wants them to be. They deported, the figures are disputed, but from my data, it's 300,000 in the year, which is not a massive deportation. They know the base is unhappy with that. So what do? The deportations that they are carrying out, they do a big spectacle and they arrest everybody and they film it and they put a hype at it. And there's a meanness in there. They played that song, I think from Sabrina Carpenter or something, and they make it a joke. They make it glib, and they do that because...
I'm glad dude, who would have thought Fuentes would be the one to say this? It's about time people from the right say this as well, because the left has been largely pathetic on this question, with the exception of Zohran Mamdani and Brad Lander, who, whether you agree or disagree, Brad Lander got arrested. It's about time people start saying, hey man, this is ugly. This is not nice. It's not nice.
They're not delivering on the promise, so they compensate by doing it meaner, edgier, more mean-spirited, so that the base will overlook the fact that it's not happening. And I think that's by definition performative cruelty. You can call me a hypocrite, but it's definitely true about what they're doing in the administration.
You went to see Trump at Mar-a-Lago with Ye for dinner. What was that like?
It was very interesting. They're my two heroes. Ye is my hero. Trump is my hero. Even though he's very disappointing, I still a personal hero of mine. And he's a remarkable person. It was a great conversation. We got along pretty well. He liked me. I liked him. It was a love fest.
I mean, he got attacked afterwards for supping with the white supremacist devil. I mean, do you accept you are a white supremacist?
No, absolutely not.
You don't think white people are superior to black people?
No, I'm a Christian, so I believe everybody is equal before God.
Including women?
Yes.
So you give women equal rights then?
No.
Great.
No.
Great. Okay. So you just talked a lot of bullshit, didn't you?
No. Why are you like mad about this? No.
You want women to be
are
treated
different.
equally before God, but you don't want to give them equal rights.
Yeah, because women
Okay,
and men
that's
are
fine.
different.
Look,
Do
it's
you
your
believe?
view.
This is a bad argument from Piers, and you're going to see why. Now, Piers, who claimed he started this by saying he's a Catholic.
There are two genders?
It's your view.
Do you think there's two genders?
I do think there are two genders, yes.
Okay. And so you mean there's distinction. There are two distinct genders.
I think we should all have the same rights to...
Well, if they're meaningfully distinct, biologically distinct, and they have different social and biological roles, I think it would follow that we would treat them a little bit differently in the law.
Do you think
That's
the Catholic
me, though.
Church's teachings reflect that?
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with Fuentes, because we're analyzing on the political front about whether women should have the right to vote. That's not our business, okay? That's not my business. I'm not trying to understand that, okay? But I will say, Piers is saying, does the Catholic Church agree? As a postmodern Catholic, with that self-appointed label, I can take more liberal views on things, okay? I can take more philosophical views, but I'm going to recognize that they are not in line with the church. The church does not allow women to be priests. As a postmodern Catholic, what I do is I also, whenever the church says something, I just go, okay, that's probably right. The church said to fast for Gaza a couple years ago. I fasted. Did I have a strong opinion on it at the time? Do I have one now? Not really. But I fasted because that's what the Pope said to do. And that's what I felt I needed to do because I find comfort in that. I find that this is a North Star in a postmodern world. I'm a postmodern Catholic because I don't live the lifestyle as a traditional Catholic does. But I still follow the doctrine of the church, the dogma, because that's what's correct. If you're going to identify with the label at all. And Piers is saying that the church does not have a distinction between men and women. Obviously they do. It'll probably change. It will probably change. Pope Francis didn't change it, which gives the church probably like a century before they change it. Who knows? But it will probably change in the future. However, at the time, we cannot say that the Catholic Church views men and women equally. That's not true. Now, in public life, that's different. But Piers, who's a Catholic, supposedly, is going to take on the church's teaching. I mean, Piers is a wizard and everything, but he's not a church father. He's not in the conclave.
I do. Yeah, there's no female priests. Have you ever seen that?
Do you think that the Catholic Church thinks all women should be deprived of the vote?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think the church really comments on that kind of stuff. Caesar's world is Caesar's world.
No, they don't.
I think they do, yeah.
You think the Catholic Church position is women shouldn't be allowed to vote?
I think so, yeah,
No.
but I'm not positive.
No, it's bullshit.
Oh, it should be.
It should be. So if you were Pope, that's what you do. You could be Pope because you're celibate.
That's true. And I'm also from Chicago, like the Pope. But look,
Right.
I mean, women, it says in the Bible that women have no authority over men and they can't teach men. And that's why there's no female priests.
Says a lot of
So I
things
don't
in the
think
Bible.
Catholic...
I mean, do you take every word of the Bible as sacrosanct?
Well, yeah, it's inspired scripture.
That's all of
But
it.
I mean,
is
is this now
all of it is
a
sacrosanct.
theological debate?
I don't even get what Piers is doing, dude, because he did it with guns and now he's doing it with religion. Look, if you're a postmodern Catholic like myself, I've never read the Bible. I'm probably not going to read it. Maybe at some point in my life, I'll read the Bible. I don't have to. I'm Catholic. We don't read the Bible, right? But Piers is saying that the Bible is not a dogma. It's not a doctrine. Piers, aren't you a Catholic? If you're identifying just as a Catholic, I really struggle to see how you can make this argument. Unless you are a Protestant or have Protestant views, or you're a Jesuit. If you're a Jesuit, that's different, but he's not.
Well, it is Catholic doctrine that women should not lead and teach. I mean, you're not interacting with what I'm saying. Why can't women be priests?
They should be.
See, and there you give the whole thing away. Like you're a heel, Piers. You're being a total heel. There's no way. There's no way. And after saying the bread and circus, this is really when it becomes circus. when Piers is starting to become a Protestant on the show. If you're going to use that label, stick to it so that you can take him down based on that label. Get the actual argument based on the theology you're arguing you're a part of. If not, why bring it up?
Okay, well, you're not Catholic. That's not a Catholic position.
I am a Catholic. Many things I disagree with the Catholic Church.
Okay. Well, that kind of is contrary because the whole basis of being Catholic is accepting. It's accepting the authority of the pontiff.
You can be a member of a religion and disagree with parts of that religion. Perfectly reasonable.
You could be, well, yeah. I mean, you could say
unless you're an
that, but it wouldn't
extremist.
be true.
If you're an extremist, you can't.
Okay.
Obviously, you never deviate.
That's just not rigorous.
You never
That's just
deviate if
sloppy.
you're an extremist. But even the Constitution,
That's just sloppy.
even the Constitution's been amended. Was it 27?
It says even the Constitution. This is really, really sloppy theology from Piers. The Constitution is an earthly document made by men. What does that have to do with theology at all? Really sloppy argument from the maestro here.
7 times. People talk about this sacrosanct document. It's been amended 27 times.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my, this is not rigorous intellectually. This is very,
just a statement of fact.
Theology. Okay. But it's fine. Where were we? We're talking about Trump and somehow we got into
Trump,
you're white knighting for women's rights.
On Trump, well, I think women should have the same rights as you and I. You don't. That's fine.
Put on the pink hat, bro. Put on the pink hat. We're waiting.
What's the pink hat for?
For the march, for the women's march. Are we going to see you at the women's march protesting for women's rights and all that?
I think women should have equal rights to men. Period.
You carry tampons in case your female friends get a period or something? Like, it's crazy. The white knighting is diabolical.
I actually, it's kind of a slight to me. I do carry an emergency tampon because I get a lot of nosebleeds and they're very absorbent. So I don't know if that makes me awoke, but just some lore. I get nosebleeds all the time, man. So I do have to carry a tampon instead of scrambling for paper towels. So if that makes me less of a man, I'm sorry, but I need it for my nose. My nose bleeds a lot.
I'm giving a female friend a tampon, would you? Have you ever? I don't suppose you've ever seen a tampon, have you?
Gross. Absolutely not.
You think tampons are gross?
Yeah, they're filled with period blood. Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Wow.
Are you into that? You like that?
Have you ever seen
a lot of tampons?
I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
I've seen them. I've seen them before.
You've been that close to a woman? Really?
No, I've seen them. Look, I used to live with
I
women,
bet
so I've seen them around the house.
I bet you've seen videos, haven't you?
What? What are we doing here, Piers?
I'm not sure.
You really hate that.
I'm not sure,
You're
Nick.
more impressed that I'm a misogynist than.
This is great circus, man. This is great circus. Come on. You got to admit it's great circus.
You are about anything. It's
not
very
really.
revealing.
I'm actually more exercised about your blatant, self-admitted racism than I'm about anything. But the misogyny runs a close second. Let me ask you about Tucker Carlson, because you had a long sit down with Tucker Carlson, in which he was, oddly, I like Tucker, we get on well, I was with him last week in London, but he gave me a harder time than he gives you. And then afterwards, he was more critical. And then you said this about Tucker.
He's a handler.
We covered this clip, dude. Piers is watching the show. He's taking stuff from the show.
Handles people. That's what he does. He's a fucking liar and a handler. He goes around telling people, I don't know anything. I don't know. Oh, I know nothing. I don't even have a phone. I am just a clueless tourist. I just travel to all these countries and, I don't trust him. And I don't care, maybe that alienates me from people in the conservative movement. I don't care. I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to be a party to whatever that is. Whatever that CIA bullshit is, I'm not going to be a part of it. So, now that I've heard enough from Tucker and I've heard enough from other people and I've seen enough, this guy's not who he says he is, not an ally. Stay the fuck away from me. You're weird, dude. You're weird.
See, what would have been great is if you'd said that to him when you were sitting opposite him.
Well, when I was sitting opposite him at the dinner and in the interview, he was nothing but...
Whoa. Here we have an attack on Tucker, on the guy who put this whole thing together. Interesting. Taking on Vince McMahon. It's happened. It's happened in wrestling. So it's cool to see it happen in real life, too.
nice. He was very nice to me and very cordial, and he didn't call me an anti-Semite, and he didn't even press me on it at all. And I thought he would, and I almost wanted him to. He was nothing but nice, and we had a great time. We had a really great dinner, really great interview, and I felt really good about it. And the next week on my show, I said, he really surprised me. He's great. And then every interview he's done since, all he does is call me an anti-Semite.
Including bringing on Milo Yiannopoulos, who we analyzed here too, that interview.
He goes, well, I hate his anti-Semitism, and, you know, I wonder why people like him. And so I just think that's two-faced. So after that experience, it kind of turned me off. I didn't like that, but he's going to do what he's going to do. He's still a nice guy, but I think he's two-faced.
What about Candace?
Interesting that that was the same accusation that Piers made towards Nick. We're going to see that accusation a lot more in this season of being two-faced. Very, very good insult to have, especially in politics.
Candace Owens, you had a sit down with her. She called you out on a few of your more incendiary comments. You've been attacking her quite virulently recently. What's going on there?
Well, you know, it's me and her. We're so complicated. We're on and off. It's very passionate on both sides. You know, I think there's this intense desire to be friends, but a frustration where we disagree with each other. There's a rivalry. But I thought we were going to have a friendly conversation, and then she kind of did the same thing. We're going to go on a show during the war with Iran. We're literally in the middle of a war. And she texted me the day before the United States bombed Fort O. And she said, would you like to come on my show? I said, absolutely. I said, is this going to be about Iran? She goes, I don't do setups. I said, yeah, let's do it. I come on the show, and then she's like got this weird hostile demeanor. She's doing the clip thing. Then she puts it behind a paywall. It was ridiculous. So that really was not nice. And then I think this whole Charlie Kirk thing, I think she's gone insane. I think she's absolutely lost her mind.
We've covered Candace on the show. It's pretty cool that Piers is picking beefs here. So we're going to have more episodes. I'm sure he's going to interview Tucker about this and Candace at some point. Bring up this interview, bring up clips in order to get this. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like it is the cinematic universe of the right-wing influencer, all fighting each other. And as far as his take on Candace's Charlie Kirk thing, you guys know that I've been pretty sympathetic to her because Erica Kirk really is a monster. And I understand why Candace has kind of gone off the deep end.
So I feel sorry for her husband.
What did you feel when Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Where were you when you heard about it?
I was at my house, and a friend of mine who was actually at the event texted me and said, Charlie got shot. I said, who? He said, Charlie Kirk. I said, oh my gosh, that's terrible. And honestly, it was devastating. I didn't like Charlie Kirk at all. And we had an intense rivalry, and he hated me. But honest to God, I was devastated. I was emotionally affected by it. I didn't even do a show that night because I was beside myself. So it was rough. I mean, it was hard to watch.
When you say you were beside yourself, I mean, you hated him.
I don't hate anybody. I didn't hate him, but I really didn't like him. I intensely disliked him, and I didn't agree with him.
He called you vermin, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he hated me also.
But you were still beside yourself when you heard what happened to him.
I was. I thought it was.
I don't think that this is great from Piers either, unless he's actually trying to get to the point, but it seems like he's trying to accuse. And I said it from day one. I always disliked Charlie Kirk. I never liked him. I think he did a lot of bad for this country. But I feel like I'm the only guy who mourned him. And I guess Fuentes and Candace are the other people that mourned him too. And us on the show. Because the poor guy never got to live a real life. Everything curated. And it was all a grift off his body. Disgusting.
It was disgusting what was done to him. And it was tragic and it was horrifying.
Do you fear an attack like that on yourself? Have you upped your own security because of this? Because your profile's got exponentially higher since what happened to Charlie Kirk.
I have increased my security, and but you know, something similar like that happened to me. Someone came to my house with a gun about a year ago, almost exactly, trying to kill me, and he was shot and killed in my alleyway. So I've had increased security for a while. It's a bad time out there, and I do believe it was a left-wing person that killed him. I think it was a left-wing person that tried to kill me. So yeah, I take it very seriously.
Elon Musk said on his X platform.
We were going to cover this tomorrow on Schizo Watch, but they brought it up here, so they did our job for us.
That you're a Fed.
This is very rich because Elon Musk is quite literally a Fed. He works for the Feds. Elon Musk got his start from the Feds. You think they let you build PayPal if you're not a Fed? You think InQtel invests in you if you're not a Fed? The biggest Fed, he lives off government subsidies, is accusing people of being Feds. You're not Steve Jobs, bro. You're just a welfare queen. That's what Elon Musk is. And I'm tired of people pretending that he's a genius when all he does is live off the government. So his accusation of Fuentes as a Fed, whether you love or hate Fuentes, dude, you're the Fed. You are the biggest Fed that has made, you're the richest man in the world because you're a Fed, because of your federal connections. Yeah, and Ephra says Elon is a manufactured persona, not real. Absolutely, because he has to sell a certain image. You think China really, oh yeah, they really looked at Tesla and thought it was a good idea to let them into their markets. Do you think that there was some US government involvement in that and Elon Musk connections with the government were used or for his plants in Germany? Elon Musk is full of shit. And I'm glad to see people on the right call him out. Ephra says, I don't know if anything's real about him. I agree. Because from the start, the guy has been a welfare queen, highly connected to the technocracy movement in Canada, the post-human stuff. So Elon Musk is not an organic person. There is an idea of Elon Musk. Elon Musk does not exist to go full American cycle.
For a paid up hire of the government. Is that true?
No.
100, you've never worked for the government in any capacity?
I've never talked to federal law enforcement. And actually, I've testified to that fact under oath when I was subpoenaed by the Congress. People leave that part out, but I got subpoenaed, I think, in January 2022, I think it was. And I was deposed by the subcommittee, the House Select Subcommittee on January 6th. And they asked me, did you speak with any federal law enforcement? And under oath, I said, no, I've never had contact with them. I've never turned over devices. So no, absolutely not.
There's been footage that's come out again this week.
Now, his answer is interesting. I'm not going to accuse people. I'm not a Fed jacket anyone, but he didn't say he's not a Fed. He said he's never had contact with the Feds. Read into it what you want. I'm not accusing Nick Fuentes of being a Fed. I don't know the guy. But it's an interesting way of answering a pretty direct question.
This is you at the January the 6th riots. Let's take a look.
It appears we are taking the Capitol back.
This is what Full Hat brought up earlier. And Ephra says it's based on the Hollywood image of a tech billionaire. This is why I'm skeptical and think he is manufactured. Absolutely. That whole appeal to Tony Stark, people think it's cool or coy that him and Palmer Luckey do. You are telling me that you're imitating a fictional character from a comic book that Robert Downey Jr. plays. Yeah, that makes you a bigger actor than Robert Downey Jr. Where's Elon Musk Oscar?
Now you're heard there shouting down your loud hailer, break down the barriers and disregard the police. The capital belongs to us now. What did you mean by that?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The capital belongs to the people.
Disregard the police. So you don't support law and order?
No, I support law and order. But on that day, the police were brutal. The police killed somebody, Ashley Babbitt. Mm. And, they were throwing people off of the rafters. They killed multiple people. So
when disregarding the police is the first step to anarchy, isn't it?
Well, I think the first step to anarchy is when the government rigs the election, which is what happened. That is when the government loses its legitimacy and its enforcers, consequently.
Now, this matters because Piers he did not take Trump's side on this, which was out of step for him. In 2020, he did not support Trump. So Piers is going to take him on this because he does not think that election was rigged. And Piers always backs the winning horse. He's called every U.S. election right. If you pay attention to him, you know who will win the election. And his disagreement with Trump was uncharacteristic. It was the first sign that things were falling apart between them in 2020. And for Fuentes to still go on with the rigged ballots narrative, which you could believe or not, I'm not saying whether it's correct or incorrect. I didn't know that this was still something that people cared about. And it's odd for Piers to bring it up, and he's gonna really try to engage with him on this for the next couple minutes.
Do also.
Well,
that's exactly what happened in 2020.
There is no evidence the government rigged the election. You know that. You're a bright guy.
Well, let's talk about it. Do you want to talk about the election of 2020?
Yeah. I think Trump lost it fair and square. I think he fought the wrong argument about the stolen election. I've said to him, to his face,
I agree.
The argument he should have said is that the deliberate suppression of things like the Hunter Biden laptop scandal from the media, by social media, by big tech, was actually a deliberate attempt to subvert the result of the election. And that's a much better argument because it's undeniable. When the New York Post that had that exclusive were basically shadow banned off all social media for the 2 weeks before the election, that was an absolute disgrace. And if I was Donald Trump, I would focus on that as being my main argument that that election was slanted against him. When he goes off into saying that there was widespread rigging and voter systems were wrong, we've litigated all this now through various court cases. Various Republican judges have ruled there was no rigging of that kind. In fact, the American election system is accepted by most people around the world as being one of the best in the world, one of the most reliable. So I just think he fought the wrong argument. If he said
that, why bring this up? Why is Piers bringing this up? And they go on for 5 minutes on this.
Deliberate.
Who cares about this election still? If you're bringing in someone for electoral politics, which is what we suspect also, that they're trying to get Fuentes and his supporters behind J.D. Vance, does this even matter anymore?
Suppression of damaging stories to the Bidens, which could have swung the election, was outrageous and unacceptable. I'm 100% behind him. But by building this spurious argument that it was all rigged through voting systems and so on, he lost me.
Well, I agree about the voting systems, but, when they went into the machines, I think that was ridiculous. However, what has to be accounted for is that in 2016, 35% of the votes were cast by mail. By 2020, it was 70% because of the pandemic. So you doubled the amount of votes that happened by mail. They called it in-person early voting. They called it a variety of different things. And the other thing that they changed is they solicited the mail-in ballots. So they sent ballots to people's...
We're going to skip ahead, man, because this is very boring. I don't understand why he would bring this up, Piers. We're almost done here.
Access plan. All access. Okay, Nick Fuentes, we've been talking for nearly 2 hours. What is your view of how the interview has gone?
I think it was great. Honestly, I think it was a tough interview. You're a tough interviewer. But I don't think there were surprises. I will not...
The face respects the heel respects the face. All is good in WWE.
Say it was an ambush, because it wasn't. I sort of anticipated that you would make some choices about how you wanted it to go, and I was fine with it. So I thought it was terrific.
As a Catholic, you're probably aware the Jerusalem Post has recently called on the Pope to openly condemn you. Would it matter to you if the Pope did? He's an American Pope, obviously.
It would be very disheartening, yes.
Why?
Because he's our spiritual leader. He's the head of the church. He's the vicar of Christ. So if he condemns...
Why is Piers bringing this up? He already lost a theology argument. Very sloppy work, Mr. Morgan, near the end. Very sloppy work.
That would be very disheartening. And it would depend upon what he would say exactly. But yeah, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that at all.
If he condemned you because you've openly admitted to being a racist on this show?
Oh, this racist, I would be disappointed if he said that, because I think that word racist, it means something different to everybody. And so I think that's just silly. I think that's just semantic.
Have you ever been in love in your life?
No. No, like romantically? No.
Yeah, never.
No.
Do you think that's part of the problem?
What's the problem?
Why you are the way you are.
Oh, and what's the way I am? What are you trying to say?
I've given people 2 hours of the way you are. You're unashamed about a lot of it.
I don't think I have a problem. I think I'm cheerful, boisterous. Look, unlike you, I'm willing to be a little provocative. Well, I guess you're willing to be provocative, but I'm willing to be very provocative, and I'm a free thinker. And I don't like to be tone policed. I don't like to be told about, people are going to tone police and play moral cop about you can't make this joke or you can't make this statement. And I think that's just about being intellectually open. I'm a believer in openness, and I like ideas.
I completely agree. I think you should be perfectly free to express yourself exactly how you see fit. My problem is how you see fit with some of the things that you say. And we've been through a lot of them, and I think people who don't know you very well will have been shocked in parts and surprised in other parts. But in totality, they can see you for what you are. I think we've got a lot nearer to what the real Nick Fuentes is in the last 2 hours than we probably have seen from your other recent interviews. Would you agree?
That's inarguably true. I think Piers did the best interview in terms of actually, it started with PBD, and this is the crescendo. This is the best. He got as deep as he could. This is the deepest interview I've seen in the past couple months. This is someone who's being taken seriously as a face in politics now, because Piers Morgan feels a need to make Trump aware of him and what he's thinking right now.
Agree?
No, I mean, the clip thing, we've done the clip thing. We've all seen the clip show. Everyone's seen the clips. You think you're the first one to do the ADL rap sheet. So here you said this, and then here you said that. I've been playing that game for 10 years. So this is honestly more of the same, to tell you the truth.
Nick Fuentes, I appreciate you coming on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my thanks to Nick Fuentes, and my thanks to the hundreds of thousands of you watching this special live episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored. As I said during the interview, I think it was firm but fair, but you can all make up your own minds. If you like what you do, please like and subscribe the channel so that we can keep doing it. I'm back tomorrow. Until then, whatever you're up to, keep it uncensored.
Can't wait for tomorrow. What a great show. What a great show, man. Come on. That was our Piers Watch. We went over time for it. If you're new here, like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Liking and subscribing takes half a second. We do a lot of analysis on this show of all sides of politics. We're just trying to understand the world we live in through our Baudrillardian lens. Takes half a second. It's literally free. Channel's been growing at a pretty good rate. Let's play us out here with our Piers Watch.
Hang on. Oh, hang on. Oh, hang on. Oh, hang on. Oh, hang on. No, sorry. I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave it there. Thank you all very much. Say the M word. Go on.
I know it's late. I know it's Monday. This is usually one of our slower nights, but it got pretty good. Here are the plugs as usual. Sorry I missed some chats, guys. Here is the Patreon, where you can see we have a $5 a month and a $20 a month. I'm actually going to start posting videos on here soon. We're going to do the King Leo Movie Club. We have the What Would Piers Morgan Do unaffiliated, unendorsed bracelet for sale on the coffee shop. The link is in the description. This is so you always know what to do. So you always know when you have to be the heel, you be the heel. When you don't want to be the heel, don't be the heel. Thank you, Schofield, for the super chat. I appreciate you, sir. You keep the lights on. That's why your name's in the Chiron. I really appreciate that. I'm still thinking of, because I told you guys we might have a giveaway again, but I think I might buy a mass amount of what I'm thinking of buying. By the way, here's the Discord, guys. Join the Discord. I'll put the link here because it's always broken. We're actually pretty active there now. Let me send in a new invite because it always does not work. If you guys get in there, we have Aria and Audio Vibes already. We can really collaborate on stories and everything and just have some fun. We talked about Piers over the weekend too. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing takes half a second. Oh, yeah, and as I was saying, I think I might do a giveaway, but also I just want to reward the viewers that have been there from the start, as well as those guys that have contributed. So we might do something really cool that'll be around January that I have everything to give away. I think it should be cool. So I appreciate you guys. Ephra says the gay allegation trap was definitely laid by Piers. Absolutely. We had a lot of new chatters in here. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them. Normally we read all of them, but the issue is that there was a lot to watch. I wanted to get through the whole thing, and we barely skipped. We only skipped 2 sections because they were pretty boring. So appreciate you guys. Everyone have a great night. Consider becoming a member on YouTube, Patreon, buying a bracelet, or joining our Discord, which is free. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world.